There is.
All
right.
And my mouth cuts too much. Half a thought and it folds in two. Like a bruise leaves its
Mark on you.
Don't hurt in my shaking hand. Know something I don't understand. Like ghosting at the edge
Yet
of
you
me.
need.
Something there that I just can't see.
Check.
You hear that too? Or is it just me? Downside out! Downside out! I need to go!
All right, we got quite a show. Hit the like, everybody. Let them know we're here. Annoy the maggot in your life by letting him know we're here. Also, this is a song that's on my upcoming album. So I'm finishing up like 3 or 4 other songs before it comes out, but
It's the same sad song, empty space that was
here all along.
Every step is a borrowed shape. Every second a vain escape. Laughter crying out for sin. Summer still
And
in
Twitch
the
people, let me see you guys with your,
place that I almost know.
there we go. There's the emotes.
Where I won't go.
That's what's up. Just check in. What side are you on? Put your flag in the ground. All right. I gotta make the title go away real quick. There we go. There we go. And why am I a little blurry? That's weird. Hold on. Auto focus. Before I bring in our distinguished guests, I have to make sure that things are firing on some cylinders. Yeah, that's downside out. That'll, there's those pocket songs they call them. I think if I didn't just make that term up, which are the songs that aren't supposed to be singles, but everybody just finds their way to. That seems to be one that's punching above its weight, as it were. But enough of that. Let me see if I can, if my newly framed things work in as I bring in our guest. There he is, the lovely, the talented.
Hi.
Hi. Hey. We're all.
I think we're ready to go. I think we're ready to roll.
I think we're all clearing Trump's phlegm from last week. Man, I haven't talked to you since the address to the nation. Operation Epstein Diss Track number 5, whatever the 7 that are going on at any given time. Bob Cesca, by the way, bobcescashow.com. Check it out. There's a Patreon. There's show schedules. You should subscribe to his YouTube channel, and I won't have it any other way. And we'll address that a few times over the course of the hour. I insist. Meanwhile, let's backtrack to the travesty of last week leading into this one. Is a fresh Monday of shit is coming in. I think we're at the 9th day of strikes. We lost soldiers over the weekend. And there's Trump doing this thing on Thursday night that was supposed to be the maggot slam dunk, baby. Right?
Yeah.
So you saw it. Right.
Yeah. Oh, of course I did. Of course I did. And you know what I was doing throughout watching Donald Trump deliver that address? I kept going, like I was doing at the top that we just did here.
The hawk and the my. I kept.
Come on, a lozenge for the president, please, because right out of the gate is like, the
and he tries to
slurping
he's just like outrunning the phlegm with volume. Like if I just talk louder, it's almost like a cough.
That's right. He didn't want to stop and clear his throat. So what he did when his throat got like that is he spoke more loudly. So it was like that. What was that Wayne's World joke or whatever it was? I can't control the volume of my own
Austin
voice
Powers
anymore.
After he was thawed. Yeah, Austin Powers.
That's it.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
I have no control over my inner monologue. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? He's always done that. Yeah. I mean, you're an aficionado of all this stuff. You've noticed, I'm sure, that he is the worst motherfucker when it comes to delivering a teleprompter address. I mean, he's the worst with everything, but I mean, specifically with his speeches and his rallies, every time he goes to the prompter, he doesn't know which words to put accents on. He trails the end of one sentence into the beginning of the next sentence. And it's just a gobbledygook, gibberishy
it's so
mess.
brutal. So I have a theory that what's creeping up on him as his brain turns to, I don't know, cat shit at this point. If we're going to use cat turd as the primary cheerleader, then cat turd will now become a reference what's actually inside this dude's skull, mixed with his criticisms of other people. That along with his fear of like falling down the stairs, which is increasingly a talking point with him, like I got a grip, and he tells the story of stairs like other presidents tell battle tales, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. He tells the tale of walking down the steps of Air Force One more, or that ramp, in the last one, more than Teddy Roosevelt talked about being shot and continuing his speech, right?
That's right.
Does that criticism, you think that's starting to lurk up on him where he's like, oh shit, I called everybody else out about Sleepy Joe and now I'm falling asleep and falling down the steps and now stairs are getting scary and, mush mouth, like that. And now all of his fans, like, Glenn Beck and all these others aren't doing the old man joke about Biden anymore because holy shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Gerald Ford haunts his nightmares. When Donald Trump actually sleeps. Gerald Ford falling down the stairs. Totally. I mean, you know what? I don't even know if it's Gerald Ford, the actual Gerald Ford, or if it's Chevy Chase playing Gerald Ford. Falling all the time.
The mockery of Gerald Ford, which is probably what he fears. It's why he hated Colbert. It's why he hates Jimmy Kimmel. He doesn't like being made fun of because, and again, it's because he has no shame, but he can be embarrassed.
That's right.
And he fears embarrassment above all else. Don't want to look like a dope, right?
Oh, yeah. We talked about this a lot. I mean, you can see it. Everything about him is covering up his embarrassment, shielding his embarrassment. The fact that he has to wake up every morning and step out, if he showers, stepping out of the shower, just soaking, looking like a sloppy mess with that 9-foot-long Gollum hair hanging down.
Right.
That he's got a dairy swirl on the top of his head.
Laying over on this one side of his head before he Benny Hins it to the other side like a sardine can lid, just half pulled.
Right. Well, and so everything about his visual appearance is covering up his shame and embarrassment, whether it's his hair or anything else. And so we see him all the time sitting at the Oval Office desk during those things where he falls asleep now with a bunch of people standing around him talking. You can see how he's got the one hand grappled over the bruising on the other. Oh, yeah. Hand. He's terrified of showing, and you could see, I mean, he's got the makeup on both hands now. It's because he's embarrassed of his appearance. So this is something that's front of mind constantly for Donald. It's not just about his branding, which his personal appearance is looped into the Trump brand. He thinks that people expect him to look this way. Otherwise, it's going to undermine his brand, undermine the revenue stream of the Trump organization. And then on top of that, he's just mortified by his grotesque, sloppy appearance. So it's all about triage.
Which is probably the only mental clarity he actually has right now. The only part of his brain that works is the one that hates his own reflection.
That's right. Right. But he grappled onto the railing going up the stairs of Air Force and going down the stairs
and
of Air
Force One. And he taps it like he's clapping for himself, like, I made up a dead, not fall down. You know what I mean? Like he does that, success, like this mini Tony Robbins, thing. Yeah, that he has to do.
Superstitious too, I think. Too. He does that. Like, okay, if I do this, if I tap the railing twice, then the plane isn't going to crash.
Yeah. Very superstitious. Tap tap.
Right. So there he was doing this speech that he was comporting to be some sort of groundbreaking thing. And you know what, Al, I keep comparing it to that scene in Ghostbusters where Rick Moranis runs up to the tavern on the green and he's being chased by, the dog, the devil dog, and he's pounding on the window, help me, help. And everyone turns to look at what the banging is. And then he turns around and slides down the window.
Right.
And then everyone goes right back to having their dinner.
Eating. Yeah, exactly.
That was the exact reaction.
That's the speech.
Because, Fox News talked about it for about 5 minutes, and then Fox and Friends didn't even mention it the next morning. Which is basically Fox News going, I mean, they're just basically they're doing the
They can't.
mentally ill gesture,
right?
Yeah,
But they
omission.
literally can't. They can't cover it because it would have to. Even I showed the clip that the White House put on their site, which if you haven't seen it is fucking magic, because they can't find one where he's not hawking up like. For another Ghostbusters reference, he's hawking up Slimer live on camera. It's like that's this green globule working his way through his esophagus. Egon, your mucus.
Yeah.
They in the beginning of it, he started doing this big thing like this, and and then he finishes it out, and at the end of it, I'm like, okay, they wanted that because he technically got the words out. And he might have sounded phlegmy, but yeah, maybe his dumber followers might think that's a mic problem or their own internet connection or some rando shit covering. But the second part of it, it was like our beautiful American people, where he just kind of got off prompter again and then just tried to claw his way back. I've told this story and people know it, but I watched the Reagan's last speech at the RNC ever when he was campaigning for Bush 1. And, they dragged him out. They made him do it. Like, you got to get out
92?
there. Up against Clinton. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I watched it in flagrante delicto right next to Patty Davis. I was, I had a 4-poster viewing bed of the thing. And we had a lovely conversation about the circumstance because she was white knuckling it as much as he was. But she had said that his doctor told him this speech would take a year off his life because it was so stressful prepping for it, because his dementia had gotten so bad that if he started drifting, he would never get back. And he was terrified that he would lose track of where he was in the teleprompter and not realize he was even supposed to be reading from it. That's how bad it got. Because it's one thing to forget where you are and then it's just a loop and people go, oh, maybe he got ahead of himself. Who gives a shit? It was like, I don't even know why I'm here. So there it was that bad. So if you watch the speech, when they start applauding, he starts going, well, like that. And he puts his hands out like this, like, don't applaud me. I have to get through this. If there's a space between what I said and what I'm going to say, I'm gone. Trump is steamrolling towards that right now. Yeah. Like, it is super clear. And the teleprompter guy that just got busted for, fucking around with the Poly Market.
Right.
That guy probably had money on shit Trump was supposed to say in the speech. And I guarantee he was wiggling the little thing to make Trump get back to say the thing I bet on, you fucker. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because he knows, he's like, I've seen this guy go. They worked on it. I mean, if he does work at all, he's seen him go off script and get bored and forget and stop working on it. Like, I'm sure in the middle of prepping for one of these things, off he went to have a Diet Coke and stare at Natalie Harp's ass or whatever he's doing. So
yeah, I mean, remember the outtakes. I think it was right. I think it was between the 2020 election and the 2021 inauguration. Sometime in there was something that he was delivering. Maybe if I remember correctly,
the apology,
it was in Mar-a-Lago where he was,
or the stand down, whatever it was.
Well, someone released the outtakes of him pounding his hand on the lectern and getting pissy and not being able to pronounce any words.
I can't
and
see
that
it.
That was like 2020, 2021, somewhere in there. And I think you remember too, during the height of the lockdowns, during the height of COVID, where Donald was getting up and doing those things in the press room every night, every evening. And I was watching every single one of those. And that's when I first started to notice the gargly, slobbery voice, where you could really hear the mouth sounds going on. And that's gotten much, much worse over the years. So you can actually hear the decline in the amount of, and it is so disgusting to even talk about his slobbery mouth sounds, but that's something that, especially if you're listening with earbuds or headphones, my God,
it's hideous.
So gross.
Please, our own audiences, because you're wearing headphones and I'm wearing these and stuff, and I feel like I overreact to it sometimes when I'm reacting to the things, but because people are just watching it from home, and if they can hear it with the pithy nuances of, surround sound, whatever, just the crackle and the glorp of it all is just
right. But then,
hideous.
Hal, go back to, I think it was either 2017 or 2018. It was right when Donald Trump was first, it was the first year or so of his first term. And he did that Jerusalem speech with the famous "God bless the United States" at the end, where he was slurring badly. I mean, it was so horrendous. And afterward, Ronnie Jackson's excuse was, "I gave him something to dry up his fluids." It was some ridiculous excuse as to why Donald was sounding that way.
It's like something out of Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, yeah. But if he was actually telling the truth, it could indicate that he was already having swallowing saliva issues going back to 2017, 2018 that needed to be mitigated somehow with some kind of medicine that would dry up his mouth, which, if you know anything, and especially if you saw the Christmas episode of Ted Lasso, when you dry up your mouth, you get terrible, terrible halitosis. And so on top of everything else with Donald, I'm sure his breath is rank, at least when it was dried up like that. So, boy, we're really digging down deep into the horrendous body of Donald Trump.
I made the point within a couple of minutes of the opening of that speech. I was like, the content of this is bullshit, and it's just redressing bullshit grievances. None of this is gonna go anywhere. But what the biggest talking point or lack thereof when it comes to Fox ignoring it is the fact that this dude is goobering the entire time. Is like the constant whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, it'd be great if he even did that, but he wasn't even trying to clear it out. Yeah, it was just there, and it kept coming back, and I'm sure
he couldn't take a drink of water because of fucking Marco Rubio. He couldn't clear his throat because he thought it was like old man or a sign of weakness. Yeah. So, he's just heroically fighting the war against mucus, Operation Enduring Snot. And
now that you're mentioning this, I'm thinking to all of his tropes, and before that, his tweets, where he always feels the need to throw in those parenthetical remarks or include all of the different, bumper stickers, zingers, the Russia,
somebody,
Russia hoax 1, Russia hoax 2, all that crap. And I think it's because he's trying to head off criticism at the pass. He's trying to get ahead of whatever someone might, you forgot to mention this, or God damn it, Donald, you keep saying that one thing and it's wrong or whatever. So he's constantly thinking ahead in terms of how people may react to what he says and what he does. And in the context of those social media posts, he was doing that exact same thing where he didn't want to, like in the speech, he didn't want to clear his throat because he knew people would zero in on that. Donald Trump cleared his throat. And then the news is talking about Donald Trump clearing his throat or whatever the thing might be. We all do videos about these things. So he's not wrong to think that we would all jump on something like that because of Marco Rubio, and Gerald Ford.
And what ended up happening was his refusal to do it made that the story. Because if he'd have done it once, it might have been a thing. But 4 or 5 times, he's like, it keeps me coming back to this like Eddie Murphy bit, I think, from like the 80s, was like, in the Nahaken of my, or whatever he was doing it from. And it just kept coming up in my head the entire time. Again, this is, I'm fairly certain to the pre-insult thing is something he learned from Roy Cohn, which is if you're going to commit a crime or you're going to commit fraud, start accusing everyone of fraud, then do it. And everybody, if they accuse you of fraud, you'll just go, they're only calling me a fraud because I called out their fraud. And he's been doing that for a long time. And so by, he may be with his whole, like his crying thing that he started with, I want to say it was like Peter Strzok or somebody, it was like Paul Ryan but it was, like it's hard to tell, but he uses it for like 6 people. It's crying Chuck Schumer and crying whoever. Like he just throws it out there. And I think as his testosterone goes down with age and his estrogen is kicking up and his mind gets a little soft and he starts confronting his own mortality, I think he's cried for the first time at simple things in a way that catches them off guard. The way after the passing of my dad, after what my girl's gone through, after having when you have a kid, there's all kinds of things that you're like, why is that making me sentimental and weepy right now? People know this reflex, but as humans, we're okay with it. We're okay with that experience. Like, oh my God, I'm crying at a fucking AT&T ad. What is wrong with me? That's the old, but that's where it comes from, a real space. But we're not hostile to it the way he is. And I think he's hostile to it. And I think he catches himself tearing up at shit. And he always viewed that as a sign of weakness. So now he's spreading that everywhere. Yeah. And the same thing was like the Sleepy Joe thing. He started doing recently I don't know if you noticed, he went back to Crooked Joe for Crooked Hillary and stuff. Started asking the audience and saying, I prefer Crooked Joe. So because the Sleepy thing is hitting a little too close to home.
Right. Didn't keep him from saying it the other night, though. I mean, right in the middle of this address from the White House, this primetime address, he's got to drop in Sleepy Joe. And it's like, oh, God damn it.
Meanwhile, one of the things that was missing that I pointed out, and I don't know that I've seen anybody else point it out, the one word missing from this whole speech about election, interference, blah, 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 was the word rigged. Didn't say it once.
Yeah.
That word was not, that's his favorite word. I mean, he says it compulsively. And yet, because they were putting the evidence out and because it really, the point they were probably making to him in those meetings, it seemed, and leading up to this was they tried to influence, but they didn't rig it. Otherwise, your election would be in question too. So don't say rigged, just point to interference and that, possibilities of capabilities of possibilities. Right.
Yeah, it may have been a legal consideration because he knows what happened to Fox News with Dominion.
That'll make them cut it off.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the other thing that I noticed that he didn't say in the Thursday night address was he didn't mention that no other country has mail-in ballots, which is his standard go-to. Every time he's talking about the Save America Act, he throws in that lie that no other country has mail-in ballots, or France got rid of their mail-in ballots, which France actually did, but there are 34 other nations that have mail-in voting. I mean, it's an obvious, stupid, easily verifiable lie. And I noticed he didn't mention that. He mentioned, what was he mentioning about? Oh, he said there's no voter ID in the United States, which is also horse shit. There's 36 states have voter ID. So, but he mentioned that lie, but refused to mention the mail-in voting lie.
And no proof of citizenship. Okay, first of all, proof of citizenship, again, most of the time it's either a passport or a birth certificate. The only time they give everybody shows it when you get your driver's license. You have to bring in something, one of those things, to do that. And your real ID, which has the information in it, what the source of your original documents is in that strip on the back. When there was this big thing with Mullen the next day was like, real ID is not proof of citizenship. And that was like a bizarre, new piece of information for a lot of, the maggots hate real ID because they think it's the next step to digital ID. And for some reason, the barcode on something is any different than opening your phone with your fucking face. Like that, like the paranoia, the mark of the beast shit that stops them from doing this. But the real ID, to get one, you have to be a citizen, essentially, and it'll have a marker if you're here on a visa or those kind of things. It has a little annotation. It doesn't prove you're a citizen, but if you're not a citizen, it says so. That's the point I'm trying to make in a roundabout way. So if you can't show up and use that as you could show up and use it as your photo ID because you're registered to vote because you showed at some point that you were a citizen and that you have the right to vote. So the people that are on. He brought up 240,000 undocumented people that were on that, people not eligible to vote, foreigners not, which could be legal permanent residents who have been here for decades, who think they have the right to, or whatever. Yeah. But the majority of it was that Michigan and California shit, where people pay people to sign up voters, and they just make up fucking votes, or they pay homeless people to fill them out, and they turn them in and they get paid. Like the canvassers they're ripping off the candidate that is running. They're not loading the system up, because before those go in, the state verifies a bunch of them as well, or has them in a question zone, of like when they're filed in. And most of the time they get like sideline ditched, expunged, or whatever. But the point is, most of them don't have an address to have the shit sent to. It's, it's like Wrigley Field or fucking Disneyland. Their birth dates, left out, all these kind of things. Like they don't get a ballot. And they certainly don't show up, that person, with a photo ID, with a matching ID going, I registered to vote, let me vote, from the shit that the dude got from the homeless people down on Skid Row. Like, that's not happening. Most homeless people on Skid Row in Los Angeles, especially in the Mission District, don't have real ID. Most of them don't have ID at all, much less the up-to-date one. It's just dumb. But they're turning this whole thing about canvassers scamming the candidates and the parties, and not being specific, by the way. It's not just Democrats. Like, Republicans are victims of this as well. Republican candidates get rolled by their canvassers all the time. But that number, here's my question. On the Democratic side, you pay money to somebody, go register people to vote. We need more voters registered. You do that. And you want those people. On the Republican side, there's almost an impetus for them to go out and go, hey, go out and register some bullshit voters and mark D next to their name. So we have, I need 10,000 people in this area that aren't legally able to vote, and I need you to get them their name and address on a voter registration thing. Don't worry about whether it's legit. Just bring it back to us and we'll file it, and we'll, none the wiser. Because then you could say there's 10,000 people registered to vote here that legally can't. I was robbed, right? Yeah.
And that's, I saw a statistic, Hal. I think it was maybe 100 votes cast by non-citizens in 2024. 100 votes out of how many millions of votes? We're talking about 150 million votes cast to 180 million, somewhere in that range. Yeah. And so that's a minuscule number, obviously. And I remember vaguely, and I could be wrong on the percentage here, but I think the vast majority of those non-citizen votes were for Donald Trump. So every time one of these studies is uncovered, where there's an audit or something like that, typically it's, if there's any voter fraud happening, it's Donald Trump. And on top of that, or the votes are for Donald Trump. And on top of that, the thing that got lost in the whole discussion of Thursday night's address is the fact that Donald's bestie, Elon Musk, is responsible for mass election fraud. I mean, adjudicated election fraud in both Georgia and Wisconsin. And that just gets lost in the mix. And that's another instance in which Donald Trump is like, well, look over here and look at all non-citizens, illegal aliens are voting. And it's Elon Musk who is responsible based on these, both of these investigations in both of these states. So it's completely absurd.
Yeah. And on top of that, go back to the villages. Remember the people who were arrested in the villages for voting for Trump twice and 4 times? They got jail time for it. Like, that's the only people I know of that were like actively, the dude who murdered his wife and used her ballot. That guy, we talked about that a couple days ago, but it was on, he's going to trial next year for murdering his wife, but he killed her, pretended she was missing, and used her ballot to vote for Trump because it's what she would have wanted. And at the time, I was like, what she probably wanted would have been not to be murdered. I'm going to say it as far as your priorities go. But again, this is one of those situations where create some fraud, and then if you lose, claim there was fraud, because you can't track the voter unless they admit to who they voted for, right? If everybody and if that person doesn't exist in the first place, there's just a bunch of ballots in an area, and it doesn't say which way they went. It just said, there were 8,000 ballots that had to be thrown out in this area. Oh my God, can you imagine the ones that were not caught, right? That's the border crossings panic shit that they use as well, that to the point where Trump has had to say that everybody coming across the border, murderers, rapists, drug dealers, and some of them I assume are nice people. He dropped the some of them I assume are nice people in the last campaign and going forward, that it's, 10,888 of them or whatever have murdered more than, 2 people or whatever.
Right.
Which is, again, is decades of people who are in jail here for murder and have been kept because we don't want to just give them a free flight home for murdering an American citizen, which would seem to be his plan. So the speech, again, like trying to basically have a redo on 2021, like old Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell shit is what we're talking about here. The biggest one, and I think to your point, was that he distracted from was the stuff that came out about Russia actively wanting him to win. That was clear. And the China wanting him to lose or wanting to damage him, and then also wanting to damage Biden at the same time, because they kind of always want the general public in a either dispassionate or angered at their government. That's the Chinese soft power model that they use all the time. Whereas the Russians were like, he's our dude. If he's in there, he'll let us take Ukraine. If he's in there, right. Sorry. The distraction point.
And what this was really a communique to the MAGA disciples. I've been noticing this for a long, long time. This is not breaking news or anything like that. But so one of the reasons why some of the things that Donald says, or all of the things Donald says, are very, very confusing is because he's reacting to a version of reality that doesn't exist. And so that was the case Thursday night. And in particular, he was talking to his base and knowing that his base will not go to whitehouse.gov and look at the documents that he posted.
No.
All they'll do is they'll take him at face value that there are incriminating documents that he has in his possession and has posted on the whitehouse.gov website. And that they'll take that just, okay, I guess that exists. We're not going to look it up. We're not going to verify that this is bullshit information. And most of it's redacted. And I think one document says NSA and DNI just a bunch of times and everything else is a redaction. I mean, it's just a bunch of crap like that. It's a bunch of nonsense. It's a bunch of raw intelligence that was unverified that he's just using to give off the impression. He's, you give him an inch, he takes a mile. All he needs is a little nugget of nothing. And then he inflates that into a vast conspiracy. And that's the typical, Alex Jones has been doing that for many, many years now. But that's the Donald MO. That's what he does. He takes some nothing burger and says, this is a major catastrophe that needs to completely undermine the existence of democracy now. And that's what Thursday night was all about.
Well, it's like Die Hard 2 or whatever, like set off an explosion on the other side of town so that you can rob the bank or whatever. And the explosions, it's a fake bomb or a dud or whatever, but it draws everybody's attention because it's a bigger threat than the robbery. So you hide it under that's been this status throughout. Now, I am happy though, on one instance, that it is increasingly true that Donald Trump is by and large, as much as he's scamming the American public, is also scamming his own people at a much higher rate.
Yes.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is Trump Media and Technology Group stock. Currently, it's up 7 cents today. It's going gangbusters right now. But this is the lifetime of this. This is and you can tell a meme stock by publicity jumps. That's when he started it back in originally, like in 2021, 2022, when they're like he's going to be reinstated, and all the Jassara psychos like Marjorie Taylor Greene and all the QAnons were like all on board. They're buying it like they're buying Iraqi dinars and that shit. And which if you the number of QAnons that invested in the Iraqi dinar, I gotta tell you, I would love to do a nationwide door-to-door documentary where I'm talking to the QAnons who invested in the Iraqi dinar because Donald Trump was going to turn it into a reserve currency paired to the U.S. dollar and erase everyone's debt. Oh, my God. So
Yeah. Oh, by
Yeah,
the way,
by the
I'd
way,
like to note
yes.
that peak right there, that
Yeah.
really high peak on the left of that graph, that's
Mhm.
where Marjorie Taylor Greene bought in on
Yes,
that peak. And
that's
now
right.
where is it? It's down
Yeah.
here, which is just a
Almost
disaster for her.
it's
Shame.
$9.73. It was at when she bought it, it was $92. Yeah, here it is. Not way up here, 92.05. That was
Yeah.
its high was 99.03. $99.03 was the
No
high
wonder
in
she's
that
so
peak.
pissed.
Oh
She
yeah.
just
That's
lost a bundle
yeah.
on TMTG. Good
Oh
luck.
yeah, and by the way, all money that she made as ill-gotten gains, leveraging a PPP loan during COVID, which she also paid for her campaign with, and she's against public financing of elections. Shut up. Anyways, so $9.73 it's at right now, and I got to tell you, I hope it goes up to $50 again before it does this again, because all it is doing is this like opening a valve of maggot money, letting it pour into his pocket and shutting it again. And hoping the pressure builds to where it looks like something substantial so they do it again, right? Yeah. And at this point they can't. The other version of this, there's another TMTGWW, like worldwide, which reminds me of Prestige Worldwide in Step Brothers, Boats and Hose, is at $3 and something. It's even worse. Yeah,
by the way, watching that graph is my favorite streaming television series, right there.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
The one. I am binging that graph on a daily basis.
Right. It's not a. It is. And occasionally, like, it ticks up just to give you a little tickle. Like, oh my God, is there something happening? No, there's nothing happened. There is fucking nothing. And my favorite part is the technology group part of this. And then we'll talk about the kind of corruption in the White House based on this. The technology, the Trump media and technology group. Now, everybody believes that this asshole would go into a media group. He was going to undo Fox. He was going to basically swallow up Newsmax or the, OAN, the Orange Anus Network, or one of these things. And, or eat Rumble, right? He was going to suck up Rumble and fold it into Truth Sinkhole or whatever. And never happened because Rumble's got its own problems. Rumble is kept alive by Iranian watch bots. How do you think that business model is going right now? Honestly, Iranian watch bots keeping like slap fighting, near the top of like trending shit is the entirety of Rumble's commercial structure. Way to go, Bongholio. But the technology group, well, what would that be? Well, we could do anything. That we do it all and everything. Well, where is this? Here's the spike of when he gets, reelected, and oh shit, here it comes. He's going to give his own. What is this? Okay, well, you know what this is? This is the Trump boys getting into crypto.
There it is.
Yeah, and their crypto investment. Right, in August of last year and, through the summer, and their announcements about it and Trump's, crypto ball tickling or whatever the fuck he was doing. And then, boom, that's their crypto investment eating shit. That's 100%. Like, fuck this. They're getting out of media. They're going into crypto. Yeah, wait a second. Eric's running things. La, 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 la. That's what that is. That is the crypto fucking slide back to like, all right, well, maybe he's going to go to jail. That's what that was. Right now, it's on par with, oh, fuck, he's going to go to jail. Like, it is the same stock price.
Oh, yeah.
As it was.
And they're reporting catastrophic losses over there. I forget what the split is between revenue and expenditures at TMTG.
It's fucking
it's a disaster.
Stupid. EPS is negative $4.13 for every dollar spent or whatever. It's,
right, which is why they made that deal to give access to Wall Street, all of Donald's troths before he posts them, or right away, so that they can bet based on what Donald is about to say before anyone else knows that he's going to say it, which is just like out in the open, insider trading, market manipulation. We're not denying it at all. We're just going to do the thing and try to stop us.
Yeah. So here's the issue I have with this one is, you're a trader. Put on your E-Trade / Robinhood hat Bob Seska, bobseska.show.com. Also the Patreon, subscribe today. You're a trader and you realize he's about to say something and you know the market is going to react. And you know that if they believe what he's going to say, it's a stupid idea. So do you short shit based on what he says? Or do you go along with it playing the bigger fool theory, which is if I buy it now, it's going to go up because these dumbasses, and then I'll sell it by this afternoon.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it matters whether or not what he says is true. Whatever he says, it moves the market. And so if he says something, it's going to, if it's positive, obviously the market gains. And if it's negative, the market declines. So they're either shorting on the declines or they're buying on the gains or what have you, selling on the declines.
Right.
So that's how it works. It's like Jim Cramer on his show on CNBC. Mm-hmm. Every time he recommends a stock, it moves the stock. I mean, I think he's got either a blind trust. I don't think he's got a revocable trust, but I think everything is in a blind trust to keep himself legally protected, Jim Cramer in particular. But the fact of the matter is Donald's trust, and this is one of the biggest lies that he tells his own followers. He likes to think that his trust, or he likes to say that his trust is a blind trust. It's actually a revocable trust. Donald Trump can track everything he's invested in. He can make trades at will. He can tell his people to do this and buy that and sell that ahead of time. And so that's one of the big scams that he's playing here. But yeah, it's that thing that goes back to Donald Trump greenmailing with Fred Trump back in the 80s, where he would manipulate pump and dump scams, where he'd manipulate the stock market based on his media access. And he's just doing the same thing with the presidency now.
Well, and when are we going to get Natalie Harp's phone records? Because, I mean, if you want to talk about a fucking conduit by which she could be, the midpoint between the families. She's the one loading these. She's the one who's not only that, but like part of Natalie Harp, if you could believe that she's really the sycophantic fucking Jim Jones sperm bank, kind of person like she's perceived to be, or she is pulling a Melania 2.0 on a level that I don't think Melania can even be aware of, which is she's in the meeting. She's in charge of scheduling the posts. And now they are monetizing them, which means the time between she knows when the post is going live and these other people are paying a premium access for that little window, the milliseconds before it goes live. She could make a fortune. If she doesn't have an LLC that she puts her entire paycheck into right now, someone else is doing it for her. Her family's just going, we're going to give you a gift of $50,000, honey, for your happy birthday. And we're going to put it in an account and we're going to track it to whatever you post on this Telegram or Signal chat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you believe at any point in time, Natalie Harp actually makes any trades or bets on the prediction markets? Absolutely not. And this goes back to the teleprompter guy. I think his name is Gabriel Perez. When I first saw that story, that it was teleprompter guy betting on Kalshi, I was like, well, this guy's a patsy. This guy's a scapegoat. They're throwing him out as a sacrificial lamb to distract from the fact that this is a culture of corruption inside the White House, and everyone's doing it. Do you think that like it was only the teleprompter guy who got this wild hair suddenly is like, hey, you know what? I've got some insider information. And Kalshi exists. I'm going to place some bets. Of course not. There's a whole climate of this going on. And this guy happened to be just the kid who goes along with the cool kids and does the same thing they're doing. And so that they weed that out and say, well, it's this guy. And it's not just this guy. We have no specific verification of this, but you'd be an idiot to think that Don Jr. and Eric, all these guys surrounding Donald Trump aren't betting on the prediction. Of course they're betting on the prediction markets. Of course they're making trades based on these pronouncements before they happen.
Yeah. And also you have to know that they're betting the wrong way. Like whatever, like if you should short what he says, they're going along on it. If you should go long on what he says, they're shorting it because they don't, either they don't understand their own dad's lies, or they misread what they think is sarcasm or whatever. It's pathetic. But one of the big things that happens this week, on top of a bunch of other stuff, is that Trump's tariffs end. The 10% global tariff he threw on after the SCOTUS told him to fuck off, that ends Friday.
Yeah.
And so the markets, in a lot of ways, are like, part of the activity you've seen around the market is knowing they die this week. Yeah. That they are futuring in this money. And the only variation you're seeing in the stock market in a meaningful way right now is that people are moving stuff to oil when he fucks around because they know it's going up. And they'll move over to there until he pretends to have another peace deal, and then they'll move it back into stocks. These are the people making money on money. It has nothing to do with the value. Is there an AI bubble? Are the data centers blah, blah, blah? Is oil really going to be hard to get? It is literally people making money on money. And the stock market, especially this week, knows full well that this is going to come on Friday, and he has no other tools in the toolbox. They have not done their homework on establishing genuine tariffs like they were supposed to do in the process where you go to Congress and they establish, fucking France is dumping crepe makers on the country, and our crepe makers are losing their shirt, and they know it, and because they make lots of them and we only make a few, so they're going to put our crepe blacksmiths out of business, so we got to stop them in their fucking tracks. The French don't even have a word for entrepreneur. So but that is they announced it, but in February, basically right before all this shit with the war. So almost like the war was another distraction from the fact that shit didn't work. He got shut down by the Supreme Court. The Epstein files were coming out. Like, it was a lot, and so the start of this war and the continuance of it has to cover that. But the Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974 gave him the authority to levy duties for 150 days. That clock runs out Friday.
Oh, yeah.
And unless Congress extends the tariffs, which I don't even know that they're around to do it, it's not happening.
Yeah. Well, the other thing to factor into this market movement, the potential for that, and reacting to the expiration of the tariffs, is the fact that if you remember back on, June 17, right around the emergence of the MOU with Iran, Donald announced, well, thank goodness we have this MOU, because the Strategic Petroleum Reserve was going to run out in 4 weeks. And he literally said, if that happens, it'll be bedlam. Yeah. That 4 week span of time, provided Donald's telling the truth about 4 weeks to go before the Strategic Petroleum Reserve expires or runs on empty, that deadline, that 4 week deadline, was last Wednesday. This coming up 2 days from now is the 5 weeks since Donald said that. So the Strategic Petroleum Reserve has got to be, if Donald was correct on that, got to be running on fumes or close to fumes. If once again, and I don't know why he would necessarily lie about the Strategic Petroleum Reserve running out, because that would be bad news for him. But suffice to say, the price of oil may just fucking go haywire as far as, going way up. I mean, the gains on the price of oil are just going to go through the roof, because we could be facing a major, major energy crisis. So that's something to keep an eye on, as far as obviously the markets, but the broader economy as well.
Yeah. You're soft pedaling it compared to some of these other folks.
Maybe so.
Oil analyst warns of violent repricing as U.S. oil reserves fall to a level not seen since the Reagan administration.
Oh, my God.
This is quick. The XOM and CVX have surged 24% and 25% year to date as the Strait of Hormuz crisis rewarded energy investors betting on supply tightness. SPR has fallen to a Reagan-era low of 320 million barrels after 66 million barrels were drained since the Iran conflict began. Analyst June Go warns a violent repricing is possible, with TD Securities calling $100 in oil plausible if physical shortages emerge. They're already emerging.
Wow.
The analyst who called NVIDIA in 2010 just named the top of this. That's an ad. The CNN, U.S. emergency oil stockpile tumbles to lowest since the Reagan administration. This is. And these are the tanks. These are the above ground tanks. That's
holy shit.
Yeah. See how the
picture before.
Yeah. Yes, these two have already touched bottom, and these two are halfway through. They're indicative of a bunch of other. We also have these salt mine things below them, so it's not even that it builds up to a certain point, and then the tanks that we pull out of come out of those things, right? And if you get past a certain point, that minimum part is where you start having to pump it more violently to get it out, because the suction, it's not offset by the volume where you keep refilling it to push those things up, and then you just take out of the top. That's why it's a reserve. But if you have to, you might as well have an oil rig going at that point. The amount of the oil in the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve plunged last week to the lowest level since '83. As the Trump administration continues to deploy emergency oil to minimize the damage from the war with Iran. Now, if you'll remember, they shit all over Biden for releasing it because of COVID, which again, not a war, which Trump was like, that should be for war, which means he was planning on using it because he has a bunch of wars he wants to do. And a lot of them have to do with oil. So he needed that in his reserve to use. But the Biden administration was doing it because oil tankers were sitting dormant for so long, and the pumping capacity had been basically shut down because the world was shut down for so long that it was taking a while for the oil to get there. So we were releasing stuff because we used what we had on hand while the oil started pumping again in places we would buy it from and refine it from. And they released another 8.9 million barrels last week alone.
I mean, does he know? Does he even realize that? I mean, when he tore up the MOU, whether it was last week or no, it was during the NATO summit in Turkey. That's when he tore up the MOU.
It's over. I basically think it's over.
Yeah. I mean, did he realize that he said that thing about there being bedlam? I mean, I don't know. We have no idea what the hell is going on. What we do know is this is the fart of the deal running headfirst into reality. This is Donald Trump's janky negotiating style, which is basically one thing, the madman theory of foreign policy. That's his whole strategy, which is just like, look how you never know where I'm going to zig or zag. I'm going to do something crazy any second now. That's all he's got. And that's running up against the reality of an intransigent enemy that is not going to cave in no matter what he does. The supreme leader of Iran right now, unless he's killed, is not going to acquiesce to Donald Trump. And so he's facing this trash compactor of his own making, where no matter what he does at this point, he is caught in the escalation trap. He's caught in a very real possibility of a major, major energy crisis that makes, the spike in oil prices from a couple of months ago look like a cakewalk. Right. I mean, this is Donald Trump's rank incompetence and negligence rearing its ugly head. We've seen this with the poop lettuce, and we've seen this with certainly COVID and everything else, where that thin facade, like the makeup on the back of his hands, starts to wear away, and the reality of Donald Trump being a complete and utter fucking nincompoop is emerging. And once again, and so we've seen this before. We tried to warn people, and they voted for him anyway again, and here we are.
And this is 100
be in this place.
100% predictable. And that's why I will continue to say that, nobody on the right, Tucker Carlson, or any of these other dipshits, get any points at all for coming to their senses about Donald Trump and apologizing to maggots for leading them astray until they start apologizing to the people they demonized for bringing it up in the first place, who we were never fooled by this. We weren't this wasn't TDS. This wasn't, people just hating him for hate's sake. The dude was Jeffrey Epstein's wingman for a quarter century. His only two friends were Roy Cohn and Jeffrey Epstein, two dead pedophiles. Allegedly, in the case of Jeffrey Epstein, we have theories about him still being alive, and I like to hang on. That's my current favorite conspiracy theory. But, right. But, everything about him was a huge red flag, one after another. Like if he can't quote John 3:16 just to punt on what's your favorite Bible verse, then maybe you should start asking him genuinely what part of it he does know, and ask whether maybe you're being bullshitted, and listen to what the Bible says about wolves in sheep's clothing. Also, before we get to the bottom of the hour, and Driftglass is going to be joining us from the Pro Left podcast and from Crooks and Liars. BobCescaShow.com for all the necessary links. And what's your current show schedule? Because I can never keep track of people's.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on Patreon. I do a live stream on Patreon for members on Sundays. So basically, I'm doing like 12 podcasts simultaneously every day. In fact, I'm doing 3 other podcasts right now. I'm actually
he's coming for the crown.
On another show.
Right.
Yeah. But Tuesdays, Thursday, Wednesdays, Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday as well. And then Trek Politics Sunday nights at 6 p.m. We drop new episodes on YouTube. Monday mornings for Trek Politics as far as the audio version of the podcast. We were off this past weekend, but we'll be back with new episodes on Sunday, Mary Trump and I. So yeah, that's the chaotic schedule. That's my life these days.
Awesome.
And also I'm doing videos every day on Instagram, which are partly inspired by what you do here. I basically play a clip of Donald Trump and make fun of it. So that's,
there you go,
that's
man.
what I'm doing on Instagram. The Bob Seska is my handle over there. Yeah.
Excellent. Yes. Because there can be only one. You're the Highlander of Bob Seskas. That's right. So every time I have a tickle cough from when I lost my voice, like 3 weeks ago, and it's still there. And now it's a matter of like pride that I actually cough or clear my throat when it happens. So I will not, show myself as weak like Trump. Like
talking loudly, like
I'm going to pretend.
Yeah. No. Just get really loud. Just overmodulate yourself until the phlegm disappears. Yeah.
Logs out, and then I could slurp it back. Oh my God. So this, like I guess on the closing part of this, and I'm sure you'll be talking about this on your shows. But it should come as no surprise that when it comes to the war, to the cost of everything, to home prices, groceries, gasoline, the war, the plural, I guess, and it's all brought to you by the same guy who managed to bankrupt a casino and has declared bankruptcy 6 times. Cheats on a wife with the next one, right? Which I'm sure Natalie Harp, I think, or some equivalent in the White House is jockeying for at any given time. That's the thing with like a dude with a Swiss bank account or a Cyprian bank account, is that you got to be the last wife before the fall, right? To get access to that stuff. So, whoever the last wives were might have a piece of what's public, but that might get seized by people you have defrauded and other people like that. But the hidden bank accounts are the ones, like Epstein's girlfriend, that lawyer who was the last to talk to him before he was wheeled out the back of the place while another body was wheeled out the front, whatever the hell that was. That woman was the last to talk to him, and then payments were arranged, I guess. That needs to be a documentary after all this is over. Like, I look forward to the entertainment you and I can make from based on a true story fictionalization, of these kind of things where it's obvious who we're talking about, but we create Will Ferrell-esque characters of everyone, so that we to legally protect ourselves. Anyways, BobCescaShow.com. Check it out. I feel that I brought some good to the world, Bob Seska, by inspiring you to be as much of a media bull as I am, putting out on all, firing on all cylinders. I think that's fantastic. And at some point, if you and I could add a weekly show together, we'll make that happen as well, at the very least.
Oh my God. Just tell me when and where. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I would do that as simultaneous with 4 other podcasts, of course. But yes, I would absolutely do that. No doubt about it. And I always make sure to mention that most of what I do is just me wanting to be you when I grow up. That's essentially the motivation behind.
Come on.
What I'm
You
doing.
already did grow up. You're a foot taller than I am. Our picture together is one of my favorite hilarities. My picture with you and my picture with Nick Simmons are my favorite two pictures in the world because both of your heads are cut off. So bless you, brother. Thanks so much. Have great shows this week, and we'll do this again very shortly. I'll talk to you off air about my new media plot that I'm hatching. So, about.
And by the way, I've got some AI things. I got to talk to you about AI on deep fried AI one of these days because got some observations about that from personal experience that are very entertaining. So we'll have to talk about that too.
We'd love to have you on as a guest
for me. Yeah, I've got Drift Class on my show on Wednesday. So. Yeah.
Beautiful. He's making the rounds. He's a beast too. All right. Awesome, brother. I will see you soon. Take care. The wonderful and talented Bob Cesca chat room. Give it up for him. Let him hear it. And then, of course, let me bring in our dear friend Drift Glass from the Pro Left podcast. And let's see if this works, please. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I forgot to put him in he's in guest one. That's not right. I'll put him in there. There he goes. Ta-da! Hey, welcome.
Thank you. I've already broken the first rule of podcasting, which is never follow Bob Cesca.
Oh yes, that's yes. I don't do it. I will only have him along in parallel, like a catamaran. Yeah, no. Count on equal buoyancy.
He's too good, too damn good. By the way, I'm now sponsored by Mucinex.
Oh, right on.
For all of your Flemmy needs,
it's
a lifesaver. Come on, send it along.
Yeah, I was doing this thing where I was like taking them and like. I'm throwing here, Trump. While you're please, while I'm watching, I was throwing these at the television set. I'm like, please, for God's sake, man.
I got mine right here because I've been an usher at my church, and I know to carry around Kleenex, cough drops, and crayons for the kids. Always carry that stuff around. Bang, bang, bang. Because you got to keep the phlegm and the cough and the screaming to a minimum, and that's what you do when you're a professional. You learn how to do these things.
That's right.
In the
Get
church.
Ahead of it. That's right. Yeah. You plan ahead and you strategize about anything that might actually be important, as if the realities of the circumstance and the results might actually matter to someone, besides yourself, or perhaps, I don't know, crazy. But enough about the war, the price of everything, the tariffs, the reflecting fucking pool. So, I missed this with Bob Cesca because we were yammering away, and he made the mistake of bringing up AI at the tail end and getting my brain spun in another direction. But I often will ask our special guests, especially guys like yourself who do this for a living, what story might be missed by the mainstream and other people, or one that sticks in your craw right now that you're like, why? What are they not noticing? What stuck out to you? Like, I noticed he didn't mention the word rigged in his speech, for example, that kind of thing.
Well, I discount almost everything Trump says because he's talking to his base. He's not talking to me. He's not talking to anybody. He's talking to his base. So he lies and he lies and he lies. Local, I live in Illinois, and I live in the 15th congressional, 13th congressional district, surrounded by the 15th. 15th runs wall to wall Illinois, and so I live in Trump country. And so I try to keep track of how the MAGA people are responding locally here to that insane speech. And the reaction here, as far as I can tell, was, how dare the legacy media refuse to broadcast our dear leader's speech. They didn't know anything about the content. They didn't care about the content. It was all the corporate media ganging up on their boy, and that's just awful. So that's the number one thing locally. The second thing is, I'm kind of feeling left out as an Illinoisian, because our Democratic primaries were basically not brutal. Our governor is going to be reelected. The Republicans are going to run Darren Bailey again, that tomato can from last time that Pritzker just stomped the crap out of, and is going to do it again. Our beloved lieutenant governor is going to walk right into a Senate seat that's opening up. And it's all very calm, and it's all very sort of well-mannered and well-run. And we have majorities or super majorities in the legislature, so Pritzker can put up a budget and he can get it passed, and we can do things in this state that should be a model for the nation. So, and Pritzker's a fighter. He knows how to do things. He knows how to get on television and talk to normal people about insulin and crops, because it's farm country and all those things. Yeah. And he also goes up and does a lot of other higher end things. But I'm like, this right here in the middle of your damn country, is a model for how Democrats can get things done.
Yeah.
And
it
why
should,
aren't
you should.
I just said there's a lot of people mentioned as potential front runners or runners in 2028, and it's always like, oh yeah, and Pritzker too, right? Yeah, he's a guy, he's a guy who could run, and then we're off to Gavin Newsom or whoever else, so it's fine. But we're feeling kind of like we have a model for how politics can work and pass things that because we're flyover country is completely ignored. So I'll just say Illinois is the big story. Also, we do have a group of people trying to secede from the state, which is kind of fun. They're getting nowhere. A lot of resolutions of intent, but no action. But the front guy for that group is Mary Nazi Miller's husband, and she's the R+20 in that Illinois 15th district that runs wall to wall. So there's a lot going on here that we could learn from if we all want to learn together. So
you can't secede with a stripe across a state. You know what I mean? You got to do like what the Idahoans are trying to do, or the Oregonians who are trying to become part of Idaho. You have to slice off the chunk of it. The problem is you also can't have like two bizarre cults that bought land in those areas, hanging on to it, and not wanting to secede because they're afraid the Idaho government will come after them for tax evasion or something like that, ironically enough.
You also have to take it to the Illinois state legislature for approval, and that's never, ever, ever going to happen because even Republicans in office in Illinois don't want to touch that thing with a barge pole. So it's just a bunch of angry MAGA people sort of banging at the walls because this is the model of America they don't want to live in, and they're stuck here. You know, with a good governor, Democratic majorities, and stuff getting done, and people generally happy with the way their government behaves. With, we have our whatever it was, we've had 10 credit rate increases since Pritzker took over. And the last guy, Bruce Rauner, was a catastrophe. They don't want to live with that. So they want to carve out their little piece, which is never going to happen. So I'm happy with the state I live in. And I tell people, pretty terrific here, actually, if you want to learn a lesson.
Well, look at the whole thing about California was like, California is losing more millionaires than da-da-da-da. And meanwhile, more venture capital moved into California than any other state, and more in it, I think, than in its history, since like Apple exploded. And you're like, oh, I see. You mean the Musks of the world are moving their environmentally damaging tech to Texas because Texas doesn't give a shit. Right. And their electric grid is in such dire repair that if you'll come down there and build a bunch of fucking meth turbines, they'll sign off on it because they need the power offset because they're separate from the rest of the grid. Whereas California is like, no. If you're going to build that shit, it's not only going to function, it's also not going to belch toxins into fucking schoolyards. And with those nasty things, what are they called? Regulations. That's right. The thing that have lowered the amount of lead poisoning in the country, immeasurably. And by the way, if you want to track the fall in violent crime across the country, you could track it back to the end of leaded gasoline since the early 80s. It started on a decline. And the only spikes that have ever happened have been socially related. And then they go away just as well. The whole thing has been tracking like that for a long time. That said, speaking of murder at the pumps, the gas price right now, Trump was just, in June, end of June, going, we won, the gas is coming down and handle you and blah, blah, blah. And on Monday, today, average price is $4.30. So it cleared the $4 mark, which was the big oops, oh shit. As if $3.99 isn't bad. I've never understood. Can you explain something to me? Because I've never understood the whole make it $19.99 because that sounds better than $20. Because I've always first of all, you're bullshitting me, and now I have to carry around a penny for everything. I just got a pocket full of pennies because you're knocking a penny. It's not like you lowered it to below the level for the tax jumping a point. Or some shit, right? That would be, it's 1982 because at that point it's just under the threshold where you'd pay an extra 5 cents in tax or whatever. That would make sense. It's wonky.
Advertising. Right. It's just advertising. It's just, the 19 registers, the 99 doesn't. It feels like you're saving something. And it's been going, go back to Roger Sterling and Don Draper. This is how advertising works. It just, and I know you know this, which is it hooks your brain into the first number and ignores the second. So it feels like you're getting a deal. It feels like you're getting something for nothing. It feels like you're saving money. You're not, and the math part of your brain knows that. But the I want this right now part of your brain does not know that. So
ironically,
it's also I think we have this many fingers. So
yes,
10 numbers that end in 0 register harder than numbers that end in 999. So
I've always been the opposite, though. 9s look bigger than 0s to me. So it draws more attention to the cost. And then I get angry because you're bullshitting me that it's only a penny off. And so I'm like, I don't go, $20. Okay, that seems reasonable. That's a price point. It's like because we treat a lot of things like, coupons for the cost of things. That's why the price difference between certain goods in the United States and Canada, even though the dollar difference is different, the cost, the wholesale cost is the same, and why you have to sell it for less of a profit in Canada a lot of times is because that $20 mark or that $40 mark works for an American consumer and a Canadian consumer because we have a lot of overlap. So they've always had to, that's why shit's priced cheaper in Canada when you go there, even though the market is relatively similar. And so I've never bought into that. If I see gas at $3.99, I'm like, oh, it's $4 a gallon. I'll round up, and there was that extra little pepper of spice of being aggravated that somebody is trying to slip $4 cost past me by making it look like $3.99. That's where it aggravates me. Okay, so here's $3.99.80, which is again these matter on the massive scale. Up again from the average a week ago of $387.20.
Yeah.
That in turn was a far cry from the average 1 year ago, which was $314.10. Now, in terms of that, Driftglass, who's the wonderful host of the Pro Left podcast, and people should check it out, and I'll show the website in just a moment, and also Crooks and Liars, you explain to me how if you've recognized this whole thing that I've noticed in the cost of things part, where you raise the cost of something 50 cents and then you give a break of 25 cents. We're cutting 25 cents off this month, and you make bigger noise about the 25 cents off so that you forget that it's gone up 25 cents. You're off, or 10% even less sometimes. So in this case, like, it's up almost $1 from last year. It's up 85 cents from last year.
Yep.
And Trump was like beating his chest about it being down, to 60 cents more per gallon versus last year. He was like, look at all the great work I've done, right? Bringing it down to only 60 cents a gallon more than it was last year.
Well, motivated reasoning. I want to, but remember, the key I took away from everything Trump does in the second Trump term is he is not talking to me at all. He doesn't care about me at all. He's not talking to any human being other than his base. And his base are motivated. They want to believe that he's doing great things, because if he's not, that makes them look like the idiots and the bigots that we know they are. So they have to believe that he's doing great things. So they ignore the uptick. When the downtick comes, they go, look what he did. Look what he did. This is King Canute did the opposite of this. I believe this is the story of King Canute in England, when all of his courtiers were saying, kings can do anything. And he took them out to the edge of the ocean and with a broom and went like this, tried to sweep back the tides, and pointed out it doesn't work, because that's nature. That's the law of gravity. That's nature at work. I can't control that. That is not something that Trump can tell his base. He is the all-powerful being in charge of everything. So he has to be able to come to them and say, look what I've done for you. And there's also that thing where if you go into a store, like I go to Lowe's a lot, or I go to Harbor Freight to buy stuff for the things I do. And you see something at a certain price, and it's been raised, and you come back the fourth time, and now it's lower, but it's higher than it was before. My brain says, I'll take 2 of those, because now I'm saving money. It is not a long-term mental picture of the economic universe in my head at that moment. It is a short-term picture of me with a cool new thing, and me giving myself permission to buy it because I'm saving money. And that is just advertising.
But wait, there's more.
If any of your listeners want to read a wonderful book about advertising science fiction, read The Space Merchants by Fred Pohl. 1954, he used to write ad copy, and it is amazing because it is every senator and congressman is from a brand. The president is irrelevant. People are packaging entire continents as products, and there's actual bloody warfare between the two. But it's how advertising took over the world, and it did. Advertising did take over the world, and we're all kind of victims of it. But there's no harder group of people who've been advertised to more aggressively than the base of the Republican Party. They've been advertised this way since, I don't know, Nixon. They've been told lie after lie after lie after lie until they've been conditioned. This is why on the Professional Lab podcast with Drift Class America, we call them reprogrammable meatbags because they are 100% reprogrammable. If you tell them on a Monday that deficits are bad, they will go in the streets burning things saying deficits are bad. If on a Tuesday you tell them the exact opposite, they'll believe the exact opposite. So they're the perfect customer because they'll believe anything that dear leader tells them. And so that's why it doesn't matter what he says as far as facts are concerned or me. I know he's lying. I don't need to figure that out. I have enough evidence to prove that. Again, I think you and Bob were talking about, we spotted this stuff coming down Michigan Avenue 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I mean, we knew it was headed in this direction.
He's been a fucking clown. He's been a clown for decades. Again, I keep pointing out he was a joke in the movie Scrooged when he gets teleported into the sewers and finds the dead homeless guy who froze to death. He pops into it and goes, "Where am I? Trump Tower?" Like that's how, because of all the stories of the rat feces in the restaurant, the way it smelled, people, that was the joke, the active joke that Bill Murray was making in that they added to the script or that he improvised it, that they kept because it was so fucking true, was that Trump Tower smells like a sewer. And it's the closer you get to Trump, the worse it gets. The closer you get to his floors. That's why they glaze everything in fucking gold. And then Melania wouldn't even live there.
No, about 36 hours after he came down the escalator. Go look it up. You can check the record. I wrote a post that said, I hope or I think maybe the RNC will pay him off. You know, this is my hope, that they'll just cut him a huge check and he'll go away. But they have spent the last 30 years creating the perfect feeding ground for someone like Trump. They created a base of rubes who can be taken in by exactly this kind of person. And he's offering them what they want to hear. He's telling them all the lies they want to hear, and he's absolving them of any responsibility for Bush. You know, he's saying, remember when he was up on stage in South Carolina and went after Jeb Bush? You know, your brother lied to us. That was him absolving the base of the responsibility for believing Trump, saying it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. You were lied to.
Believing Bush, right. Yeah.
And the minute he did that, they locked onto him because he was telling them, you know, immigrants are horrifying, minorities are dangerous, Democrats are the devil, I will save you from everything, all your problems are somebody else's fault. And by the way, the Bush family are a bunch of liars who took us to war, and the corporate media can't be trusted. Now, those last two are actually true, which, you know, that's absolutely
that's
true.
how you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the frosting on the cake. That's the frosting on the poison. And that's when they locked onto him and said, this is our boy. This is why the legacy media could not believe. This is why a whole bunch of our Never Trump allies now couldn't believe he won, because they never understood their own party. They never understood the base of the party. You got to live out here in the real world and interact with these people to understand the attraction of someone like Trump and understand why they back him and will die on that hill. And no matter what he does, nominated him 3 times, elected him twice. And those people are going to be with us, whether he leaves office on his own power or toes up. And that's the real problem. The real problem is the base will abide. The base will remain. Someone's going to come along to collect them. And that's what concerns me at this point. Not the lies he's telling on a day-to-day basis, because, okay, fine. I'll track them and I'll write about them. But it's what do we do to save the country from this blight? And I think, you know, that's why talking to people like you and Bob and other folks where I pop in is nourishment for me. Because it's really easy to forget you're out here by yourself doing your thing, your microphone and whatnot, that there's lots of people in the same boat. There's millions of us out there. And we forget sometimes that we're actually the majority. If you take all the Democrats and all the idiots who are regretting they voted for Trump and add them all together, we're clearly the majority. Yes. And it makes me breathe a little bit easier.
Yes, those people are going to show up this fall. They are. Yeah. The question is, will they show up in numbers in the presidential election next time. Whether and the idea, by the way, that this like you need to be motivated is such a privileged bullshit way of being, that like anybody, especially that allegedly leans our way, who even bandies about the term privilege for any class of human being. I don't care who you are, gay white male privilege at the outer edges of it, or white female privilege, or economic privilege. One of the biggest privileges you have in a democracy is voting, and the only one bigger than that is not voting is going. You know what? Whatever way it goes, the system can burn or fly. I'll be good. Right. And again, most of the people motivating that shit are doing it from the warm side of a bay window. One of the things I want to point out, though, and then that space merchants thing that you brought up, I showed that on the screen for a moment. Yeah. But I want to make a point, too, about gas prices that I don't know that's made that often, which is here's a heat map of gas prices, right? Red being $6 and yellow being $2.60. That doesn't exist. It's 3, 4 and above everywhere. Like if you scroll over these things, you'll see like Texas is at 357. How ironic. Arkansas is 360. Mississippi's 357. These are the same suppliers, and therefore Alabama's 363. California's 547. Oregon's 458. There's $5 in Washington. Now, here's the thing that I don't think people point out, which is there's effectively $1 difference and $1 and change difference per gallon for people in California and most of the other states, with oil-rich states maybe feeling like they can lead out a little bit more and intentionally effectively subsidize a mute in the price through leasing agreements they have with the gas companies to make sure that they're pitching a little towards Texas's way, pitching a little towards Florida's way, and any of the chemical plant states like Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama, who make most of their money off of cancer clusters. But Florida, for example, is almost $4. It's $3.93. So here's the difference: the median income in these states is not uniform. So yes, California is paying $5.49, but the median income for people in California, and then the ancillary income of the support structure, which is higher to chase it, is able to absorb it in a way that, like, West Virginia is $3.83.
Yep.
West Virginia is $1 less, than Washington State, where fucking Google is, right? But the median income of West Virginia, let me see if I can scroll down here and get it, is, there we go, West Virginia, around $60,000. It's at the bottom. The $60,000 is the median income. And again, there's a lot of haves and have-nots splitting that up, especially when you come to like the coal industry, where there are some multi-decamillionaires who own, oil, supply companies and the transportation companies that get it out of there, the trucking companies, besides just the mines, right?
Right.
And even with those, the average West Virginian is at the near bottom of the country. And they're paying $4 a gallon. Meanwhile, California, let's see if we can, is way up here. I don't know that they're not in order on this list. I apologize.
No, there you go.
But I scroll 100,000. The median income in California. Now there is a huge chunk of there's a couple of trillionaire kind of companies there, but even still, those people make tens of millions a year or something like that. That would be like 25 million a year, something along those lines. But the population of the state is 44 million plus. So even with that, the average income of even like working people, like roofers, people who lay electrical cable, all that stuff, they're making closer to 80 to 100, at the top end, and that it evens itself out. Doesn't speak to the working poor. I'm not discussing that, and I'm not saying it. Right. That's who it makes it impossible for. Let's just understand that these prices make it impossible for those folks. But the impact on the average person, and especially the motivated voter who drives to the polls, who has a vehicle and a job and is a television to watch the news and all that stuff, who's not a disenfranchised voter who just lives in a fucking shack in Ojai or some shit like that. A Californian making $100,000 is going to absorb $5 a gallon gasoline way easier than a West Virginian absorbing four. Absorbing four. And that's the thing I don't think that maggots have quite factored in as well, because you look at, some of the bluer states, for example, like Kentucky's pretty bad too. That's 67 to 70,000. Those folks, and Louisiana, look at those. Those are the ones where it hurts a lot more. Yeah. And so red states are getting fired up about this gas price thing in an unbalanced way compared to other shit they've been mad about for Trump.
Well, and 100% true. It affects whatever the differential is between what you can afford and what you make. Anything that closes the gap when you're living paycheck to paycheck, which most of these people are, which I am, which this is why Fran's not here, because she's working at a local hospital, because our health insurance went up quadrupled in January. So she has to work there to do that. So we feel these incremental changes as well. But add on to that all the things that gas delivers to your house.
Yes.
The price of everything goes up because diesel goes up. The price of your food is going up because fertilizer is going up. So in addition to the gas price going up, you're seeing your food go up, your energy price go up, your cost of just getting through the day going up, all of which has a cumulative effect. You can absorb maybe one of those, and gas is very immediate. You fill the tank when you need to fill the tank, whether you like it or not. But all of those accumulating effect of oil shortages, of gas shortages across the entire spectrum are hitting people who cannot afford that kind of inflation, which is what it is. And all of that is down to Trump. All of it.
Yeah.
We were, a friend and I were talking the other day about, we want to do a show about World War I versus Iran. Like two intractable conflicts that you can't seem to get out of because you're stuck in them. One is complicated. It's alliances, it's assassinations, it's family bloodlines. World War I, the Barbara Tuchman, the historian, said, when asked, a German general said, "How do we get into the war?" He said, if only I knew. Nobody knows why this damn thing started. It just started and we couldn't stop it. Everyone knows what happened in Iran. Donald Trump got dog walked in there because he thought it would be an easy win. And now he cannot get out. It's a lobster trap and he can't get out. And all of those prices you're seeing, they're smacking MAGA upside the head just before election time, during summer when people would like to take vacations, maybe drive a little bit. All of that is down to Donald Trump. And there's no escaping it. And there's no way out of it. And that is something that I think if you start organizing around workers and cost, which I see a lot of Democrats doing, they see a lot of them organizing around childcare, healthcare, cost of everything, and why aren't you getting a raise, are all economic issues that directly affect workers way more than they affect the oligarchs and the elites. They don't affect them hardly at all. And that is a much more effective message, especially when you pile on top of that, this guy who just screwed you out of thousands of dollars a year in gas prices is raking in money at a record pace. Stack up the last 100 corruption scandals in American history and political history and multiply that by 1,000 and you get the Trump family. Yes. He's ripping you off every day and he's screwing you at night on gas prices and everything else. And that, I think, is a very, very potent message, especially when you have a Democrat who is committed to doing something about it.
Yeah.
We can't get caught trying anymore. We actually have to deliver for people, which is what I think we're watching in New York City. We're watching a mayor figuring out, here are some smaller things I can do to make people's lives better. And that will earn me the trust to do the larger things. And that's what you have to do as a politician. You have to show that you're doing stuff.
Well, that's what the ACA was. And again, the biggest problem you have with a lot of these things is buy-in from the general public, the other part of the electorate that didn't vote for you. To get something to work and have them not attack it and try to destroy it, they have to be on board because they have a voice in this country. If you still want a democracy, they're still going to have to say, if you're to all the DSA fans out there, if you want democratic socialism, that means that maggots are going to have a say in your socialist programs, how they work, how they're funded and how far they go, because that's the democratic part. And there's a real reason why a lot of these, why oligarchies stem from this like hyper free market shit and where Trump wants to go in this monarchical idea, and why socialist and communist countries default to dictatorship, because they only work if you and I can't tap the brakes. And there will be moderating aspects of this that will always occur. And so your biggest job, I think, and Mamdani seems to be pretty good at this, so fingers crossed that's how it works out, it is get the thing up on its feet, get it helping people, show its stability long term.
Right.
Make sure people are aware that this isn't just something I'm doing for 2 years, like Trump, bringing down the strategic oil reserve. Like he's selling this to his people in the same way. He's just bullshitting straight out, which is, I can declare war on around the Strait of Hormuz, and oil prices aren't even going anywhere, without telling you he's been dumping oil on the market out of the Strait of Hormuz and relieving sanctions from oil parked in tankers by Russia, and then but turning them off, letting Russia refill those tankers and go park them in the water, and then turning them back off again and going, I'm only releasing the stuff that's at sea. And like, well, it's a conveyor belt. It's like, and then they move. That's not, you're pretending you're not, that's sanctions relief. You're just giving them a wink and a nod. Like, give me 3 months and I'll let a bunch of that shit out. And that's how I'll manage the price. That's what he's been doing. So the issue for us has to be, it goes, and I think you're absolutely right about like, pilot these things and give people a temperature gauge on what they're doing. Because one of the things Democrats can learn from Trump and this crowd is the sales aspect of it. Trump is bullshitting, but the need to be reassured about the value of a product that you're invested in does exist for real. There was a moment in the movie Dave, which I love, where he's trying to save the homeless shelters, and he brings in Charles Grodin to go through the thing. And one of the things they kick out is this funding for in American car, making people feel good about the car that they already bought, he says. So you're doing, okay. The point of that didn't come out of nowhere. It wasn't just a dumb program that somebody threw. It was just, that was a little like, it made a good soundbite. But the reality of it was, because at that point in history, the Japanese and German markets were making a huge push, and it was going to kill Detroit.
Right.
And effectively, if Dave had really been the president, he would have played a part in what Detroit has become today because of that very thing. Like, you need people to be, like, again, that's why governance needs constant gardening. And the only reason we need a good orator as president is so that when they tell you they're doing something, you understand it clearly, and you still feel like you're in good hands because ethically they have a root that you can count on, right? Trump is trying to do the bullshit version of that, which is just like wear the top hat and go, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest show you've ever seen on this planet. That's it, right?
But that's all he's got.
Yeah.
And when I worked for the city of Chicago for about a decade or a little bit more in workforce development. And I'm very proud of what we did. We set up high schools. We got thousands of people jobs. We did a whole bunch of cool stuff. But I came out of a different organization. I came out of the education sector. I came out of private sector. And it drove me nuts that they wouldn't brag about their accomplishments. They sucked at marketing their accomplishments.
Yeah.
All these wonderful things you're doing, these amazing things you're doing for people in Chicago, you're getting them jobs, you're getting them training, their kids love it. You're taught to, I mean, the way we sold the high school in Chicago, in Austin, was to go to the parents and the grandparents who remember manufacturing saved them. These are mostly black families in a tough neighborhood, and tell them, we don't want to put your kid in a factory because you're black. We want to give your kid a middle-class life like you had. And we'll show you what the factories look like now. And that's what sold it. But it had to be sold because they had no reason to trust us that we had their best interest start until we showed them what we planned to do and delivered on. And that you can do that. Roosevelt, I mean, there are models everywhere. Franklin Roosevelt was really good at that. Not only trying everything to see what worked, but naming and shaming the people who were against him, calling them out, saying, I welcome their hatred. Harry Truman did the same thing. He was really good at calling out the people who hated him and saying, and calling out the workers who said, you've never gotten a better deal than from me, and come to me and show me if I'm wrong. So he did a lot of things I disagree with, but they were really good at that. Johnson was great at that. LBJ was was terrific at programs and then selling the crap out of them. And that second half, now I admit part of the problem is we don't have a liberal media. So, Fox News.
The illusion of a liberal media keeps them from even being closer to being a liberal media. Right.
I mean, face it, you, me, and Bob, we're the liberal media. That's it. That's what we got. So I'm shouting as loud as I can. But
me too.
You can't count on the liberal media, the legacy media, to carry your message at all, because that's not the message they want to carry. They want to carry a message.
Right.
Both sides are bad, and Democrats are in disarray, and they'll find a way to tell that story no matter what you do. So one of the things that frustrated me was that Barack Obama was a great manufacturing president. He did an awful lot for manufacturing. I have a whole long post somewhere in my archives of all the things he did and all the press releases and all the events. You never would have known that, because the corporate media was not interested in that at all. They're interested in mustard and tan suits and terrorist fist jabs. And why can't Obama lead? Why won't he lead? Why won't he have a beer with Mitch McConnell and solve all our problems?
Right.
And
there
so
was also
we lack.
There's also
Fox ad.
I completely agree. I will put an addendum on that to the things that I believe we can address on our side, because again, I feel like while those are certainly things we would have to work on by voting with our dollars and watching what we watch and those kind of things, and actually, I don't know, writing a letter to the editor or those kind of things, which you can do and will have an impact. Ironically enough, people have left that aside over the years. But one of the things that we have to point out is that on our side, one of the reasons our candidates and our elected politicians don't tend to tout successes is because none of them are perfect. The success, we're still working on stuff, and and the response from the primary crowd and the activist crowd is often like, you don't give a shit about the people this doesn't help, right? And it's so loud, and when you actually care about helping those people, you're more affected by that criticism, and it mutes you. They do. They tiptoe around every success because it can't help everybody, and it's not there yet. So even the pilot programs that start up, there's this kind of like, we're doing some good, and it's nice to see that even when it's extraordinary, even when the ACA helps 24 million people finally get insurance, and it saves lives after and the children that were able to stay on all those kind of things that were added to it, without beating the chest about it, and especially the people who use it and the people who benefited from it. There should have been 24 million separate ads for the ACA on a daily level, that every Democrat who was for it should have gone out to their constituents, go, hey, have you been helped by the ACA? Let us know. You don't have to give us your full name. You can go Anna J or whatever, and that's your name and whatever. If you want to speak on camera, that'd be lovely. We'd love to hear from you how it changed what you were paying for insurance and how it kept you, the pre-existing condition stuff protected you, all those things. And they could have printed, like the DNC could go, hey, predicated on campaign money you're getting from us, we need your social media team to give us 5 of those. Right. And
however,
yeah,
people loved. This is the thing. This is the bad news, and then I have some good news. But the bad news is people loved the ACA. They hated Obamacare,
right?
Because Obamacare had Obama's name on it, and that's what freaked them out. It was like, and that was branding. That was entirely branding on the Republican
on purpose.
Side.
Yeah,
on purpose. Plus, you had all those town halls where you had shrieking idiots coming in there saying, "I don't want my country to turn to Soviet Russia." You're crammed, and a lot of stuff apparently was crammed down our throats. I heard that phrase 1,000 times, and they just outshouted us. I mean, and I agree that we should have done a better job, and we need to continue to do a better job. Now they're using the ACA funding to destroy the ACA. And the reason that Fran is working at a hospital now is we can't afford it anymore, because they're destroying the one thing, and they're destroying it not because it doesn't work, but because it's a legacy program for Barack Obama. And then you bury him under a ton of history. The good news is I do have one slogan that has worked. 21 years ago, when I started blogging, like the first week of blogging, I was writing about this. Both sides do a lie. My God, the both sides do a lie. If Dick Cheney were caught on the White House lawn throwing burning kittens at homeless veterans, first 3 words out of Cokie Roberts' mouth would be, but the Democrats, because that's how deep it is. Now, I'm not saying I did this all by myself. Mind you, I had help. But 20 years later, everyone is saying, I listened to Stephanie Miller this morning, and she was like on and on about this goddamn both sides do it thing. What the hell is wrong with these people? It's making the legacy media defensive. It worked. we kept pointing out this is a lie. In fact, this is the big lie. This is the
Yes.
load-bearing lie that lets all those swing voters off the hook for not voting for Democrats because, well, both sides are bad. What am I going to do? And it lets MAGA people clear their conscience because if both sides are bad, why pick on me?
Yeah.
And it has gotten to the point where it is now people are pre-buttling themselves when they tell that lie. Well, this isn't one of those both sides do it thing, and then they do it. But
you're right.
That's got them on the run. And I've said for 20 years, if you destroy the center, if you destroy the both sides do it lie, you destroy the legacy media, then the right will collapse because they will lose. Because we have to fight a war on two fronts at all times. We have to fight a war against the right and against the fake center, the independents, the both sides do it crowd.
Well, I would also say the progressives are a massive issue in that as well. That would be the people who brought the lie to progressives want progress, and tend to be anti-progress, and the what I would call the anti-incrementalists. And I would argue that one of the things that they've done is to demonize the center as part of their feeding frenzy. Now, there are namby-pambies, Susan Collins being a great example of that, where they're not actually centrists. They are clearly she votes with the president 90% of the time, 95% of the time, and she's given a 5% pass, like a lot of people are, to do their kind of almost activist votes and that kind of stuff, which is visual politics that has no material impact on stuff whatsoever. Right. The Democrats stopped the NDAA this week. Like they really did. They really did. And I am not hearing, there's some, it has to be addressed because it's news by some of these groups, but I don't see a big address point where like, oh, everybody, from the centrists I demonize, the moderate Dems that I categorize as not real, while I'm dinoing them, like while Trump rhinos every Republican, to the squad or whatever, everybody voted for that. Anytime there's the Democrats act as a block really well and they're together, it becomes less of a news story. You'll hear spikes of people who they present stuff that's never going to pass, or it's clearly their 5% rule. The 5% rule is not the indicator of where the party is actually being able to make progress. But when the entire party stays together on an issue like this, it deserves more press. And the both sides do it thing, where I keep seeing that come up, is in the Tucker Carlson world right now, where they're turning on Trump and he's pulling back and, and he's using that as it's not my fault I supported him. What was I going to do? Support them? They were going to do this plus worse. Like Harris was going to go into fucking Venezuela or Cuba or seize, talk about seizing Iceland and fucking Canada or the Iran war or like more specifically, not seek a real ceasefire in Gaza while Trump and Netanyahu's pretend one is going on right now while Kushner and his buddies are carving the fucking place up. The idea that anybody voted as, the Genocide Joe crowd, which ate a lot of screen time. And they're the ones who motivated those 6 million voters to stand down in the election that allowed Trump to walk in. By the volume you were talking about before, then what would be the loosey-goosey, namby-pamby so-called independents who vacillate a lot based on like a tennis ball, like, oh, that side had it, so that side should have it, so that side should have it, so that those people.
Worst game of pong ever.
Yes, right. We can't control. But what we can do is speak to people who are alleged Democrats, alleged Democratic Socialists of America, and allegedly liberals, and want to stick by the meaning of those words and make sure that the progress that is made along those lines continues. Otherwise, we're just playing a jargon shuffle, and there's no reason to take any of these assholes seriously.
I can't remember the name of the Republican analyst, he's probably did this anonymously, that said this is going to be a hate election because voters hate us now. It's important that they hate Democrats more. Yeah, and that has always been the strategy. It's always been go back to, before Liz Cheney became hero.
So what the communism thing's about.
Yeah, but before Liz Cheney was hero of the resistance, she was talking about how Democrats. She was working for Trump in the Trump administration, doing Trump's bidding, and saying Democrats murder live babies.
Yeah.
Not in this, not in the womb. They murder live babies. This is just what Democrats do. Democrats are the face of pure evil. Now, once your party has sold this lie to your base, and they spent 40 years selling this lie to their base, how can you then ask them to compromise with them? Because we are evil. We are pure evil. And it is important that every time you screw up, you have to make our horns a little bigger. You have to be more demonic, more monstrous. So they're going to the bottom of the pit. We are fascists, we're communists, we're baby killers, we're all the terrible things. That is motivating their base, who are angry already and dumb already. But it really is their entire strategy, which is we have to paint Democrats as even a little bit worse.
Democrats.
As Republicans. And I have heard this. Did not start with Trump. Trump harvested this. The people who say that he hijacked the party, I laugh in their face. I say, when you throw the keys to someone and ask them to drive your car, that is not hijacking. That is asking them to drive your car. The base asked him to run their party. They still do it because this is the base you built. This is the Republican Party base you spent decades and billions of dollars building to give Trump, and you're just mad he grabbed the controller out of your hand. Right. And he flies the drone, and you don't fly it anymore. That's why you're angry. And it is important, I think, for Democrats to go after those people. But I'm tired of Democrats who run on being bipartisan and working with my neighbors across the hall and so forth. I don't think you can do that anymore. I think there will come a day when you can do that. But I think the day of the Joe Manchin is over. The day of the guy getting mad because Barack Obama won't lead or you don't compromise enough with these nice people across the aisle. You have to explain the people across the aisle from you argue in bad faith. They're bad people. They're corrupt. They're craven. They're quislings. And I will not cooperate with them in any way because they're the ones who fucked up your country, not me. I'm here to fix it. And if you can't.
Sure. My only pushback will be that I agree about the elected officials themselves, but the electorate still exists, and especially in these very purple areas. Your district overlapping with 15, for example, is a great example of those. If you scoop out the maggot who's running the place, those voters still exist, and they've either got to be coaxed on board or they're just going to elect somebody else, and that vote will count. And so right now, the margin in the House and in the Senate is very narrow. And because of the lack of working together thing, the independents often, that crowd that steps back. The only appeal point to those voters is I can work with the sensible ones. And you've seen that show up on the Republican side of things. On a rare instance, but it's usually because of the purple of the state. They've driven the electorate in that, but in genuinely purple states, in genuinely swing states, the independents will go with people who either will bulldoze past their primary complaint, which in the last one was this myth about Gaza and probably abortion. And those were the two driving forces that allegedly, if Elon Musk didn't throw the switch, that gave these 7 swing states to Trump. Was the stand down of the Democrats and then the bulldoze aspects of, shit or get off the pot in terms of Gaza or abortion that drove, groups, big voting blocks. Yep, just enough to tip it over. But that margin still exists. So how do you coexist because you have to with that electorate if you don't allow your own reps to go, I'm talking past the primary psychopaths and the people that are in office right now. I'm here, as a representative of a state that isn't that different from the great state of Ohio, which is run by 2 Republicans. I would like to say that I feel like in many ways I represent a voter that is very close to those people, even if they didn't vote for me or they wouldn't if I was running in Ohio. I know farm-wise what they're going through. I know the supplies they need. I know what their struggles are and that kind of thing. And I need them to know that so they buy in on these things. We've had some fairly bipartisan. The housing bill was completely bipartisan. It was a moment of sensible legislation that happened almost impossibly. And it was and does anybody really think that any Democrat, and I mean any Democrat, a President John Fetterman to a President Bernie Sanders would not have signed the housing bill right away? If anything, been more involved in its crafting to make it better for people. I genuinely it is so the Mitch McConnell circumstance aside, which we'll have to address in just a moment,
Mhm.
and the Lindsey Graham gap, which they filled with his sister, which again points to this Trump racist, eugenicist kind of bullshit about it's a family game. Small monarchies under a bigger monarchy is his goal. That's obvious. That's what all the fucking gold is about. He hates this fucking country for all the things that make it America, and especially the dead service members that we lost.
Yes.
He threatened his own kids. If they joined the military, that he would disown them and they wouldn't get a piece of anything. Meanwhile, this is Tyler James Feehan, 25, and Isabella Gonzalez. She was 19. They were both killed. They haven't released the name of the third dead soldier from the Jordan attack. They're dead now because of Trump's attack on Iran and he and Hegseth's specific lack of planning for what the enemy would do. That's on top of this. Even if you give them the reasoning, which I don't, that you got to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon. Well, in that process, you got to minimize our soldiers' deaths and the safety of them. In this, at least make a pretend effort to try and do that instead of going, well, there are heroes. I mean, you might as well be saying they are martyrs for the country. That's the same. Right. He's using the same language Iran is doing. So what the fuck are we fighting them for if we're basically the same? If his idea of how things should run, which is oil revenue and a religious leader, why are we even at war with Iran?
They should be, and he tried to partner up with them. He was trying to cut deals with them. We'll charge everybody toll. We'll split it down the middle, and I don't. This again, we run up against a wall of they're just dumb and they don't plan, but they accurately reflect their voting base. That's the problem that I have, and you've hit on the thing that keeps me up at night, which is what if the problem of the GOP base is unsolvable? What if they are so deeply programmed into this thing? Because we thought we had it licked with Biden, right? We got rid of Trump. Now we have the same guy. He's old and he makes some mistakes, but he's a nice guy. He's a normal guy. And there was that screw up at the end. But on his worst day, Joe Biden is 1,000 times better than Donald Trump. On her worst day, Kamala Harris would have been 1,000 times better than Donald Trump. And yet enough people decided to switch sides and enough people decided to stay home to flip it back over to Donald Trump. It terrifies me that is what we're going to be living with for the next 30 years. Well,
those aren't the MAGA voters, though. Those are the people we have to address in our own party where there's this lesser of two evils horseshit. And as I often say, if you are ever confronted with a choice that you believe is between the lesser of two evils, choose less evil, for fuck's sake. Yes. And if anybody who says incremental progress is no progress at all, I would like to see how these people lose weight, gain muscle, eat right, take medication, go to the doctor, brush their fucking teeth, take a goddamn shower. Guess what? Bodily cleanliness is an incremental process. Fucking start a garden, you dickhead. Try, owning a car is incremental. You either improve it or it rots. It will break down. You have to, you got to, even if it was great when it started, you still have to change the tires. You got to change the oil. You got to make sure it's clean inside and it's running. But you can't just go, well, I bought a car. That's over. I went to the gym once. I'm fit. It doesn't work that way. And the same thing is true if there are other factors working in the opposite direction. By the way, in good faith, I will even say that a stupid person, a dumb person like you're talking about, that makes their wants, needs, and fears genuine. They're just fucking dumb. The answer to that has always been education, which is why Trump likes the poorly educated. He likes the uneducated for that very reason. We can educate people. That's what Democrats do every time they get into office, and that's the impact that it has had overall. And the states that put more money into education, have more people that make more money. They attend greater universities. That money pays off over time in their net worth and the health and well-being of their families. It is easy to measure in the states that go fuck education, have the lowest incomes, have the highest cancer rates, have bad food habits, have like obesity rates through the roof. It's all measurable. The big thing for us is that 6 million of people who allege to be Democrats and allege to believe what we believe, but their utopian ideals about how easy this shit is to clean up makes them less than motivated if the person doesn't stomp out onto the stage and say Deutschland über alles in whatever jargon they need for their little fiefdom.
That is a problem.
Yeah.
I think the other end of that spectrum is what we saw during the Obama administration, which is when you have a majority. We have a majority. We do not have a supermajority. And if you let Republicans control any branch of government, they will use that as a lever to stop everything, to break everything, to slow everything down, to smash everything. This is Mitch McConnell ripping off Barack Obama's
SCOTUS choice.
Yep. Which, by the way, look up Rick Wilson. He was cheering for that in January of 2016. Our ally was saying, we have the power to do it. Screw the rules. Take it away. Democrats can't be trusted. Blah, 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 blah. So, these are our allies we're talking about. But once you hit that wall of now, so you have to not just beat Republicans, you have to have a supermajority across 8 years, 8 solid years of overwhelming in the Senate, overwhelming in the House, or you blow out the filibuster. And I just don't see enough people who can do that in the near future. I can see winning the House, I can see winning the Senate by a few votes, but it bothers me that people who have non-incrementalist ideas about what should happen in this country don't understand how anything works. Like, let's abolish the Electoral College. Well, here are the steps you have to go through to do that. Do you think you have enough votes to pass it on all the states and send it to Congress and vote it there, et cetera, et cetera? If not, shut up. I agree with you in principle. I agree the principle is there, but there are other better ways to do this. Do you understand how a bill becomes a law? And that is what frustrates me, is the people on our side, who are allegedly on our side, who have, as you say, utopian ideals, don't understand how things work, and think that if they shout loud enough, then the Green Lantern ring will be donned, and the president will simply will it into existence.
Well, that's the issue that they run into. Yeah, that's the issue they run into in each of these circumstances, where after that, kind of like as the extremes get louder, at one point you start vilifying someone. Can you hear me? Okay, I had to switch out my headphones, so it was okay. The other party, whoever you're talking about, and specifically people inside your own party, more than likely, the people that aren't doing what you want them to do, are one of two things. They're stupid. They just need to be informed. They are ignorant of the truth, and if they were only told about this program, they will implement it and it will be magic. Or they know all about it, but they won't do it because they know it will work and they're beholden to somebody else in money, in politics, or whatever. And so they're evilly shutting it down. They won't let it exist because they're afraid it will work. This is the magic spark plug theory of politics, which is they're keeping we shouldn't have to replace our politicians every 6 months. So they're hiding the perfect politician from me, because if they let it solve the big spark plug would go out of business, which it never will. It's a nickname for myself. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that in that lack of reality, they reach this point. And you see this with TYT all the time, that Democrats that aren't all in on a program, or aren't all in on selling it, or aren't, defending it as vociferously, or voted for it every time, but don't sound good on the news, which is very weird as a distinction. Like, I want to see people's voting record. What did they do materially? What hit the road and what didn't? But if they're not going for the next giant step, if they're not putting their, their cheese on the line, as it were, for whatever the magic program is, then they obviously are stupid. So they shouldn't even be in there. And somebody who's not stupid should be in there, namely my non-stupid person that I have to force in there. Or they're evil. And increasingly, as someone is there longer, stupid becomes less of a possibility and evil becomes the only answer. So the way, the way Cenk talks about Jeffries is worse than he talks about Trump. And and without even a tip of the hat to the reality that not all districts are created equal, much less all Democrat districts are created equal. Whereas, cool, can you do people in Denver and Manhattan and the Bronx that are on your side, or kind of like Mamdani adjacent, or or like in the Denver area where they had basically legalized pot for 3 decades until it actually happened. Of course that person's going to be teed up. But if you're going to get a Democrat in any of these other areas and tip to that supermajority you're talking about, they're not going to sound like that. And if they do, they won't get elected. They will not. They're going to vote your way, but they won't sound like it in the same way, or they'll have to use a different argument that's not purist. And the one I always go to is the Obama being for civil unions when he was obviously for gay marriage. And then Biden basically, because he had, horrible diarrhea, he just said it at one point. Yeah, of course. What the fuck are you talking about? Of course they should be allowed to get married, and they were like, dude, shut up. Most of the country isn't there yet. And if we can just let them know we're for civil unions, they might let that slide. They won't be too, they won't come down on us hard. It won't give it ammunition to the other side. And we could soft walk this in and bring and lead the country along. We could be ahead of the country, but still talking to them. Because if you lead by saying, keep walking or I'm going to turn around and shoot you fuckers. If you only got 6 shots in your gun, nobody's going to follow you, after the 6th person, essentially, is the idea.
Let me give you an example. I mean, our Congresswoman, Nikki Brzezinski, who we adore, who's great, who does a wonderful job, is exactly what I want for this district. A committed backbencher whose primary campaign appeal was farming, making life better for farmers. She's a good Democrat. She votes the right way, but she didn't go like out of her way to be controversial. She knows what people in the district will vote for. She did, however, swing over on ICE. When ICE came to Illinois, when ICE started mowing people down on the streets, she was like, this has got to stop. This is awful. So she's not
Which, by the way, is a farm district, a positive farm district. Trump even flipped on farm districts as far as immigration. He let the farmers have a bro deal so they could have any workers they want, and we won't get those people. We'll just look the other way. We're not going to set up a system, God forbid. We're not going to use E-Verify properly. We're not going to do all the stuff that we yelled about forever. It's just like, dude, I trust you. You're big ag. You're a friend of mine.
Yeah, but Nikki is an example of exactly what you're talking about. She is a sort of a sensible center-left Democrat who will vote with the party 94% of the time and is focused on gun safety and farming and is righteous on all the other issues. And I'm sure she'll get reelected. I plan to knock doors for her and phone bang for her. But yeah, you're right. If you want to win a majority, you have to run the right candidate at the right place and the right time. And you cannot run a DSA candidate. We tried it. A DSA candidate ran in our district, got like 4% of the vote. It didn't work. Now, a lot of the issues DSA raises are now becoming much more salient.
Yeah.
Affordability, housing, data centers, all the stuff that they talk about are becoming much more. I think they should.
By the way, like every other Democrat that isn't DSA is also talking about all of these things. That's the thing. Right. That's the part where they bridge with regular rank and file Democrats isn't the problem. It's the Trojan horse idea that they carry with them, unfortunately, because of the word socialist, that will keep them from getting elected, even if the majority of shit they do when they get in there is much more attuned to rank and file Democratic priorities like healthcare and education and infrastructure and that kind of stuff. The idea that the ironic part is that the independents that lean either way will look at them as the Trojan horse and not the maggot candidate who's just going, I'm just here for America first. That's all I want, right? Which is how Trump got in.
So their ideas are winning. Take the W, man. Take the W. Your ideas are Bernie ideas. Those crazy Bernie ideas, the Elizabeth Warren ideas are now central campaign issues in almost every Democratic campaign. That to me, looks like winning. That to me looks like progress. And that's a good thing. I think that's a wonderful thing. And if you have to slow down because you have to bring other people along, as long as you're going on the right road in the right direction, we can accommodate you. What we can't accommodate are people who tell lies about us to break us apart and drive other people out of the party because both sides are the same, because both sides do it. Can't live with that. Cannot do that.
Well, and that's because the strategy of the people who do that, I think is malicious. I don't think they want to win. And I think they if anything, they fall into that kind of Susan Sarandon dystopia to utopia idea, which is like we just need elect the worst people. Like they call them accelerationists
Right.
on the right
Yeah.
as well. Elect the worst people so it all falls apart.
If you dial
right.
back to 2010, somewhere on my site I have a video of Glenn Greenwald addressing a college class about here's what Democrats need to do. You need to lose some elections, and that'll show people how bad they are. But Democrats are only incrementally better. You're frightening people to think Democrats are only a little bit better than Republicans, and that's unacceptable. Democrats should lose a bunch of elections, and then people would see how bad they are, and then the proletariat will rise up, and blah 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 blah. And so this bullshit's been around long before Trump, and it's always been a problem. And people are constantly falling for it, and it drives me up a wall. So
right, and then and the Democrats are communists and socialists because social programs are socialist, for example, or and again, this is I get into this argument with our DSA friends all the time, but what they're talking about is not democratic socialism. They're talking about a social democratic ideals in taxation. So we have in this country taxation with representation. So the voters have a voice in how their taxes are spent. That's why the Congress is in charge of it, not the president as a unitary executive in this regard. And so our priorities play out in the Congress and are worked out there amongst the electorate through committees and subgroups and people coming back to their district go, okay, I can get this, but I can't get that. And there are other districts that have, more people in them or more money or whatever, and they're pushing for this. And, that's how it has to work in a democracy, because we don't all have time to the idea that we would do it like The Voice and kind of like phone flip, swipe right on policies is an absurdity all the time, because of the generic running of a government that has to happen all the time. But this pushing of, that anything that's good for a community or a society is communist or socialist is what Republicans have been pushing for a long time. And ironically, while touting, themselves as these Christian nationalists, which Christ was the highest form of charity as a religious leader of all of them. He was like, as you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. I'm God's son. And if you treat them like shit, you're treating me like shit. That's enormous. And obviously they don't believe a fucking word of it, but they'll wear the fucking badge and they'll check the box and say so. It's the same farce.
It is. I'll flash you one book. This is Building Beloved Community. I'm not selling it or anything. My church, my Methodist church, had a whole bunch of olds like me in the basement. How do we cope with tyranny? How do we as good Christians cope with tyranny? There are enormous numbers of really good Christian faithful people. I'm not here to proselytize. I don't proselytize. But who are absolutely on our side. And they get no play. In the United States, there are right-wing Christian fundamentalists and there's atheists. And that's the dichotomy that is always being presented to the public as these are your two choices. I love our atheist listeners, by the way, on the professional left. If you can make do without the carrot of heaven or the stick of hell, you're a better person than most people. So way to go. If you believe all the things that are in the Bible in terms of moral lessons, screw the miracles. It doesn't matter to me. Good on you. You're my ally. But there are millions of Christians out there who are very dedicated and very organized and trying to find a way to be decent people and oppose tyranny. And believe me, people have left our church. We put up a sign that says, hate divides, love unites. People left our church because they were MAGA Republicans.
It worked.
The
sign worked.
I don't know. Yeah. But there are allies out there that we don't think about because they never get talked about.
Yeah.
And so right-wing evangelicals, again, probably like you, have been writing about them for 21 years and their influence and how Reagan brought them in and all that other stuff, which is all history and everyone should know it. But there are an equal number of very concerned citizens who are also Christians and also Jewish and also Muslim and also Buddhist who are aggressively opposed to this. And they are our allies and they don't get enough airplay. The person I would turn to for this would be John Fugelsang. John Fugelsang and my wife are both theology geniuses. They can quote chapter and verse, and they're excellent at debating this stuff. So I feel I see the platform. I can talk a little bit about that stuff, but they're They're the experts, and you should
Yeah.
listen to them.
Well, in my case, I will often say that the evangelicals in the right wing evangelicals are their equivalent of the faux aggressives on our side. The people who
Yeah.
pretend to have those ideas and those ideals and those beliefs, but do everything in antithesis to those things because they're just using it to manipulate a mass of people that they can use as a power base. So there are, I would argue that there are nearly everyone in the White House is an atheist. And I don't mean and I mean a believer in Darwinist eugenicism, like this belief of like not only do fast horses make fast race horses, and God doesn't give a rat fuck, about every life or whatever. They need the evangelical vote so they'll pretend to give a shit about abortion, or they think there aren't enough white kids being born, so they need the abortion rates amongst them to go down when they know everybody else will just have one on the side and or do it themselves and then maybe kill themselves in the process. This is like passive eugenics idea that's been around forever.
Two of the people that I laughed about darkly. I'm not respectful of them, but one of them has passed away, Michael Gerson.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is David French, who now is a member of the Bulwark, and he writes for The Atlantic because these people never lose their jobs. These are people who, I wrote a long, long post about all Michael Gerson's writing during Obama. And he was slagging him as the most divisive president ever, the worst president ever, lazy.
Yeah.
Came right up to saying uppity, this close, over and over again. He was a rat bastard when it came to Obama, but he was a believing evangelical Christian. Same thing with David French, a believing evangelical Christian. When Trump came along, he could not believe that his party would choose that man. I'm like, you were completely blind to what was happening around you. And so my question for these people, especially the evangelicals who were shocked that all their friends were like, why would anyone listen to you ever again? You've been wrong about everything. Why do you still have a goddamn platform? Why are anyone paying for your goddamn opinion? You don't know what you're talking about. You carried a lie on your back for decades to advance the agenda of a horrible party because you thought Jesus wanted you to, and he turned a blind eye to everything else. Why don't you shut up, sit down, and let Hal Sparks be the person who will talk for us?
Right.
Let Bob Seska be the person, because we're the ones who got it right. We're the ones who've been right for a really long time, and nobody hates anyone more than the kid who got it right all along.
Yeah. Well, tell me something I don't know. The key to this will be is that if Dems start touting the successes that we have made in policy and in progress, real on the ground stuff over the decades, from Social Security on, but also just like fixing some of the cancer clusters in Louisiana when Republicans didn't seem to give a shit. Those kind of things matter. And the problem is you can't just bring them up once. You got to hammer them. You have the one lesson, like I said, that you can take from Trump is that as often as he lies, that's how often you have to sell something that's true. The truth needs just as much help, if not more. And it is up to us to keep doing it. And you and I are both up against sort of, I would say, the traditional media that has a hard time reacting to stuff that's not on the up and up, because they've got to operate slower. Any bigger organization will obviously have an elephant has a slower heartbeat than a mouse. That's just how it works. And they can't travel as fast, but they can have an impact. And so steering that and where it goes matters. And so we should play as much of a role in that as we can through our viewership and that kind of, and our response to them. But on our end of things, we're also up against this, what I would call the faux indie media, which is these larger corporate structures that are pretending to be independent. Look at, Rumble on the right and and Bongholio being a quarter owner in the fucking thing, even while he was deputy director of the FBI and making money off the right-wing shows that are there and stiff arming anything liberal that would show up on the platform on purpose because they're afraid this message will get to their viewers that they're trying to sequester into their own blocks. And the faux aggressives, the TYTs, the Jimmy Dores, the people who eventually become a Dave Rubin, those folks, we got to be, forceful in our pushback on that. At the same time, with dealing with that we live, you can't sweep back the tides, and we got to remind everybody of that so they don't hold people to the fire, feet to the fire for not, so that they admit they're not a witch, which is, that torture analogy is particularly galling to me, like, because Cornel West said it about Obama the first week he was in office. We got to hold his feet to the fire. I'm like, you of all people should know where that comes from. And the idea that you're going to start grilling this motherfucker day one after 8 years of, of just kind of like, well, I guess that's government for you. During Bush and the Iraq war and Afghanistan starting and the response to 9/11 and all the grifty no bid contract shit that Halliburton was doing.
Hurricane Katrina and Terry Schiavo, the whole
yellow cake, totally. Yep. And so I'm not, I'm going to continue to call out people on our side because, making the perfect the enemy of the good is really our only voting problem right now. It is the only thing that gives the Republicans a 4% margin someplace. That's it. Mm-hmm. If we just voted like adults and realistically choosing people that can move through, and if you could get them through the primary and they can actually win, and that candidate can win the general, you win the argument. But if they lose the general, multiple times, you got to start questioning. Maybe you're trying to force a square peg in a round hole, and you got to start dealing with that. You can't. That you have to come to the realization you're trying to sweep back the tides, and that's on you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. I know I kept you over a little bit, but you're very giving in that regard. Absolutely. Yeah. And I will. We'll talk about this very. Please, you guys. I don't know if you swap positions or whatever. If she's got a free time, she wants to come on when you're not available. I gladly have Blue Gal on as well. Or both of you again very soon.
This is entirely my pleasure, and it does my heart good to know there's a community of people out there. And again, we're not alone. There's millions of us, and a few of us have little voices and shout all we can and push all we can in the right direction. And eventually, you got to bet on the future. You got to assume the future is going to be there, and it's something we can grab a hold of and envision and get there. And that's what keeps me from having nightmares every goddamn night.
That's right. And again, humanity has been through this many times, and there's still more of us than there ever has been. And as bad as things get, life is still kicking death's ass. By the numbers. So take care of yourself, and I will see you very soon.
You too, man. Take care.
All right. Cheers. There he goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Driftglass. And thank you guys so much for joining in today. I saw the super chat earlier from Beethoven. Thank you so much. We will do our very level best for that. And JD Christie, thank you for the purple cat. I greatly appreciate it. The sticker. And Jason, thank you for the thumbs up sticker. I think you saw that one too. So appreciate you guys. Super Chat's a great way to support the show. So is Patreon. If you have if you do the Venmo thing, I can show that, if you're not into the brevity thing, the Venmo thing, that's fucking interesting, man. You can buy me a cup of coffee that way. And since we're moving studios, oh boy, are we accruing costs. That's why, hold on. Do I have a picture I can show you? Probably. Hold on. I'm not. Don't forget your gun for the skirt and Rose's step ladder. Okay. Garage guy came. I have all the. Okay. Excellent. Yes, I do. I have a picture. Hold on. Let me open it first, and I'll show you what I have done. What have you done? Go back to the library and scroll down to here. So. Let's see. This was the room. Let me show you the before. Where's my before? I'll find it. Hit the like while I'm looking for this thing. If you like this, is this your favorite part of the show where I'm just randomly looking for artwork and photos? Yeah. So get down here, you crazy thing. You wackadoodle. Well, I'll just show you the room, and I don't know where the pre-carpet picture went, but it is doobity-doo, doobity-doo. Open that up. Yeah, there we go. Close this over here, then I'll open this up here. So this room had carpet. Hold on. I'll show you this. This room had carpet Saturday. And back to where I'm at. Why did I go to this? The comps? There we go. Right here. Whoops. That's not the one. That's the wrong window, you silly thing. That's my unused personal computer thing. Why would you do such a thing? That's funny. I don't want to move that. I want to move this. It's the tertiary screen, not the secondary. Is this one, right? Is it that one? Yes, there we go. So, whoops. Open this guy. Silly thing. There you go. So I tore up all the carpet in that room on Saturday. And I was made as you can see, I have my 3D, my GoPro 360 in there, making a time-lapse photo of yours truly, personally. And by the way, I would like to say, I'm not volunteering this. I'm not saying it's a good skill to have, but I am saying that if anyone needs a dead body dragged up a flight of stairs, I'm not saying I'm willing to do it, but I am capable of doing it at this point. That is abundantly true. There is no question that I'm able to do that. Okay, and this one, do we go to here? Will it? Yeah, there we go. I shot that. That's for Patreon. There I am. That's me pulling all the shit up and that kind of stuff. It's fun. This is what it's gonna look like when I'm done. This is a rendering of what I did for that part of the room. I don't know, like, I'm not gonna have a fan up top, but this corner over here, that one right over there, that's where the green screen corner. Yeah, no wonder I'm coughing. That's right. That's going to be the green screen corner. Yeah, MAGA dragged a big slit in the floor, and now it's green. But this little area over here is going to be an 8 by 8 foot square studio setup green screen space for visual effects and special stuff that I'm filming and blah blah blah. And I'm finally getting around to doing it instead of having just the draped situation that I have like 3 feet behind me. So that's what I'm working on. And so I pulled up all the nails yesterday, which was really fun and tedious. And then this guy, there you go. And I had to go around all the baseboards, those little carpet tack things. And so I got, I only bled like 3 times. I was really proud of myself. So this space right here is going to be the new kind of working studio eventually. Right now, it's so goddamn loud that, did I use this? Yeah, here you go. Hold on. I don't know if this will play through here, though. I think I turned the sound on. Yeah. Yeah, see how loud that is? I did that twice, I think, because I was being silly. Yeah, here you go. This is the echo in this room. People always turn away from the eyes of the screen. That was my cough, right? That's what I tried the second time, because I was coughing, right? That's why I did that one the second time. But I walked away further and it was even more. Yeah. So anyways, that's me dicking around in my little room while I'm trying to get stuff done. And then I even looked at a floor polisher that I like rent versus buy. And so I was at Home Depot doing the whole like, where is it? Oh, that's the new trash can. That's the stuff that's if you need a dead body dragged out, I got that up the stairs by my lonesome. I'm just saying. I don't need it for soundproofing though, because I'm going to use other stuff for that. And it's got to be, I do want some reflection in the space. So I need it to be removable. So yeah, they do have great looking panels now. Am I getting the Alex Jones desk eventually? This was the little thing I was like, want while I was there, this like roving desk thing that is it's a dolly and a cutting desk, and I was like, that'd be cool to have. Maybe later. But yeah. And then I don't know what this was. Was I trying to? And then left the house, and the air conditioning unit needs repair. So the repair guy that we had not hired, we were just checking him out, turned off the compressor so it could thaw, and dwip, dwip, all night long. Look at that. There's the hole in the, and then stains in the ceiling, and it was starting to come through. You could see the thing. I was like, that was fun. So in the middle of all this, just so you guys know what I'm doing in the background in all of these situations, it is, and I'm doing a bunch of this, Project Hail Mary. That's funny. That's kind of awesome. I think I will call that the basement project as Project Hail Mary. So I am working like on that stuff. I leave right now. I got to go over there and bring over some tools and start, working at that space. So why do you think about Dead Body Hall suspect? No, I watch a lot of true crime, quite frankly, and it feels like that. Removing a mattress or a roll of carpet, I feel like that's how they would train if you had murder camp. If there was like I think I'm going to do a kind of like a version of Survivor where like who could be like you get to murder the other people figuratively, as a joke, but it trains you in all the like how to not leave evidence. Like this is a show that you could have on Discovery in a fucking heartbeat, like called Don't Get Caught. And the whole game is like, can you get away with it? And like, this is where you have to, and if you lose the draw and you don't get the rose on one day, the dead body you have to haul weighs 250 pounds. And it's all like husband and wife crews. Yeah. So, yeah. Welcome back. Glad you could make it. What was they on acoustic pounds for like $110? Yeah, they're pretty good. True crime addict, absolutely. Murder for dummies. That's basically what I called the Discovery Channel and like ID and all those channels. That's what they are. All right, I got to go do more work like that. So just so you know, that's what I'm up to, and I'm working on it. And wish me luck. So you didn't hire. Yes, these are the. Oh yeah, and we had a guy that was supposed to do some wiring, and that's not happening. So I'm going to have to do a bunch of it myself now. Super fun. I mean, I'm capable, so it's a good thing. My dad was an architect and all that. The show's called Dead Weight. Yeah. So, all right. Much love to you guys. Be safe. Take care of yourselves. And that was what I was going to say. This afternoon show may be pushed either to tomorrow or later than usual, depending on when somebody shows up to help us fix the thing that's wrong with the roof. So, and I got to do that because Summer's going through her stuff and she can do a bunch of stuff, but she gets tired, and I understand. And I would rather do all of it, but she wants to do some of it. So anyways, that's where I'm going right now. So that said, much love to you guys, and I will see you later on. There it is. I knew I had a thing on the way out the door that I could play. Yeah, this is the one I'm feeling right now. So much love to you guys. I will see you later. Take care. Don't forget to subscribe, will you? Mm-hmm. All right.
Cold moon and ancient stars. You live in dreams of mine, dying to see you all the time. See you all the time. Trapped in memory, haunting alone in love, haunting alone in love. I'll see you in my dreams. I feel you in dreams. Leaves fall dead and lovers cry, and in my arms you died tonight. And now the dawn breathes with my pain. Alone in love I'll be again. You remind you live in dreams of time, in years that were never mine. Never mine. Trapped in memory, haunting alone in love, haunting alone in love. I'll see you in my dreams. I feel